see if it works.
Here we go. I do believe we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Break the Rules stream. I am your host, Lev Polyakov, and with us we have Travis Brown, director of the Woke Reformation documentary series, which is ongoing right now, and it's quite a thing to behold. I'm loving the animation, all the guests that you have there, and I think that you are fulfilling a very important role in the prophecy. What's the prophecy, you might ask? Well, it's going to be up to us to see what exactly the prophecy is going to be. But either way, it is a blessing to have you here, along with my main man, Giovanni Pennacchietti, whose keyboard I keep hearing. So
Well, I'm promoting. I'm saying that we're going to talk about postmodernism.
we are going to
So
talk about
that's probably going to be
postmodernism.
like the fish in the hook, right?
I am very excited for that. But
Sorry.
let's start with
My mic is all hovering over the.
And we are also going to have the Prudentialist coming in later, Uberboyo coming in at around the half hour mark. But anyway, Travis, why do you do what you do? Why did you not decide just to go through, the standard blue empire system and just be one of the bugmen there?
What
Yeah.
a question.
Yes, quite the question. I want to start off for anyone who doesn't know why I'm laying down, I have really bad back pain, so that's why I'm laying down. And I also got zero sleep last night, so I hope that I'm coherent enough to answer your questions. But yeah, so well, the real question would be, why did I not just fill my time playing video games or do something else that was less anxiety producing?
Yes.
Yeah, I felt really compelled to do this for a number of reasons. One of which, just I live in Portland, and I've just been seeing this woke social justice madness tear apart our city for quite a while, but especially since 2020. But I noticed some of the madness really when Trump got elected, and I wasn't really for Trump, but I certainly understood why certain people voted for him, and he seemed to act something almost like a catalyst for this stuff to take off. And then obviously George Floyd's death and COVID and a number of other things really skyrocketed all this stuff to fame, so to speak. And so that's one reason, just being concerned about the way this ideology has been indoctrinating masses of people all over the place, especially in my hometown, and just seeing some of my friends kind of lose their minds a little bit on this stuff and say things like, it's fine if an immigrant's building is burnt down as long as in the aggregate racial justice is advanced. And I'm just thinking, like, really? That's actually what you think? So I wanted to understand the root causes of this. So I kind of did my own studying, and thankfully I'm friends with Peter Boghossian, and I know James Lindsay and Helen Pluckrose, and so they're kind of the masters of the origins of this stuff, and so I've done some episodes with them. The other reason is that I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian home, which was very constricting, and I see a lot of the same kinds of problems occurring on a public scale now that I saw in my own home, where you can't say certain things without being deemed evil or a heretic. You can't go in a different direction than the party line without being ostracized in some way, and that all really concerned me. And so that's the other reason.
Would it be something like the horseshoe theory, for example, if we're talking about the people from the fundamentalist Christian household and now the people who you've encountered? But at the same time, would you also maybe give a little bit of slack to the fundamental Christian side, at least for the sake of it giving you an alternative view from the one that was being expressed, out amongst your social group? Like, if not for that, would you have turned out the same way, you think?
Oh, no, I mean, that's a fair question. I mean, I'm sure I would be very different. I don't know. I was actually talking with a friend about this last night. I don't know what led me away from that. I didn't really have any influences that were like telling me to question my beliefs, but I did anyways for whatever reason. But no, it's certainly there's certainly positive aspects of Christianity that I appreciate, and that this woke religion does not have, like forgiveness and redemption and accepting people back. And I've since reconciled quite a lot with a number of the people who in my family treated me fairly poorly. So I will say that, again, that aspect of forgiveness and reconciliation is something that just you don't really see much on the woke left. So I would say that's certainly a positive.
Another thing you don't see that much on the woke left, at least from my own observations, is great relationships with the animal friends. And I notice you have an animal friend right there next to you. Can you tell us who that is before we go any further?
Yep, this is Nora. She's a great little buddy.
Oh.
She joins me on most of my podcasts. She's very very sweet, very loving, and sometimes she'll just put her face right on mine. So we'll see.
Well, that's a great sign as far as a human being goes. There was Hitler. Don't get me wrong. Anyway, we're not gonna get too much into that part of it. But so now you're doing this documentary series. Can you tell us a little bit more before we go further? What exactly then is going to be the goal with this documentary series? Who is it mainly for?
Yeah, well, honestly, it's even though most of my supporters, I think, lean right and often are Trump supporters, I'm really making it for liberals and progressives because I want them to sort of wake up to the woke problem. So I've been very careful to. I don't really consider myself on the right. I don't really consider myself on either side, but I do consider myself to be fairly liberal, and so I really wanted to use that lens through which to view and critique this ideology, primarily so that other liberals and progressives in particular would start to see some of the problems with this ideology. But it's really for everybody. I mean, I'm trying to sort of like handhold progressives and liberals as I walk through these ideas and just show them how like this is not real social justice. These people don't actually care about racism and sexism like you think they do, etc. But the series starts by explaining the origins of this ideology through the work of Helen Pluckrose and James Lindsay, based on their book Cynical Theories, which is a great book. I recommend everyone check that out. It's really one of the only books of its kind to explain the origins of this ideology back to the postmodernists and beyond. So it explains the origins. It then gives some concrete examples, like my friend Corey, who survived terminal cancer, and his story surviving cancer, and then feeling a need to sort of speak out against this stuff because he's Black and he constantly is being tokenized and hired in the film industry because he's Black rather than because he's very talented, and this is very insulting.
Was this from When in Doubt, by the way? And is that a separate documentary, or are the two fused together?
They're separate, but they certainly overlap. It is funny because Corey reached out to me because of When in Doubt, because I was making that film and I was looking for subjects to have, impossible conversations, because it's based on Pete's book, How to Have Impossible Conversations. He reached out to me, I think it was through a Google form that I had, and he filled out the form. But he said a lot about woke ideology and the Church of Woke and all of these key phrases. And I thought, since I'm making this other film, he might be a great candidate for this. And I'm really glad that I made that decision and that he's on board. And he's even become something of a producer. He shot a little bit for me. He's given me a lot of feedback, and we've worked pretty closely. And yeah, so we tell his story, we tell a little bit of my story. And then we end with these episodes are not out yet, but I'm going to end with a couple of concrete episodes of like what people can do, what they can practically do to push back, what everyday people can kind of rally behind, and also to try to paint a positive picture and put something in the place of this monstrosity. So that's one thing that I would criticize the new atheist movement for. They took away religion and didn't really put anything in its place. I mean, Sam Harris is the only one who kind of tried to do that, but that was the fatal flaw of that movement. And so what I'm trying to do is offer liberal humanism and other positive perspectives in place of this, ghastly ideology, so that I'm not just like deconstructing it and leaving it as is.
A couple of things before we get to Gio, because I know, Gio, you're very excited to get into the nitty-gritty here. Before that, I just want to say that the friend you mentioned, it was quite something to hear him talk about how he was hired on this production, and then when they were talking about Black Lives Matter, and they pointed to him, it wasn't even that, like he just didn't make a positive face. And he didn't say anything good about it, and that was enough for them to, for the alarms to go off. So, and then they fired him the day after over the phone. So that was pretty interesting. Yeah. And the other thing that I would add,
of the class, like they're all like,
yes,
you say something, everyone turns their chair to you.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, I'm sure you're familiar with FAIR, the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. So we're going to have a couple of people from FAIR coming in as well later on. And I think that it is important, the kind of stuff that they're doing when they're able to actually help out some of the teachers that were affected by a lot of this ideology, who otherwise wouldn't really have that much of a lifeboat. So I am deeply appreciative of that. And we're going to have Wilfred Riley, and we are also going to have Kenny Zhu coming in from there. So I'm very excited about that. But without further ado, let's go to Gio. Gio, the floor is yours.
So wait, but before we go, do you have just normal back? Like, is it mid back, or do you got some sciatica going on?
It's low back, and it's on the right side, and it's not sciatica per se, but it's in my sacroiliac joint largely, and L4, L5, S1 area. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. If I sit for more than about 5 or 10 minutes, my pain just ramps up drastically, which is why I don't sit. And then standing, I can tolerate that a little bit longer, but not much more than about 20, 25 minutes. So.
Have you ever what do they call subluxated muscle there?
Is this from an injury? Is this from an injury or?
I think I guess I would call it probably a repetitive stress injury. It's from making my first film, All Too Human, where I co-directed it, I shot it, I produced it, I picked up the fucking coffee for people. I did way too much, and I didn't sleep very much for a few months, and I was literally working over 100 hours a week, and it was just stupid. And then one day, it wasn't an injury per se. It was just I wrapped the film and I was sitting at my computer for an hour, and then I got up and I could barely walk. I was in so much pain. So something gave out, and then it kept giving out, and then physical therapy made me about 10 times worse, where I ended up in the ER. So it's been a bit of a mystery, frustrating mystery.
Wow.
Man, there's some chiropractic stretches. You could do some neuroflossing. I suffered with sciatica for years. But anyways, what you were so but first, how did you get into filmmaking? Did you go to film school, or was that a goal of yours, or to be a documentarian?
Really, my goal was narrative fiction, and I tried my hand at that with my first film. I do find that I feel like I'm better at documentary filmmaking, partially because the directing often happens in the edit, and I think I'm a better editor than anything else. And my strong suit is not directing actors. I was just really lucky with the actors that I found for my first film. They were just all really great, but but in terms of, I've always been interested in film. I played around with cameras when I was a kid, and initially I wanted I was really into martial arts, so I wanted to be like a stunt person, and so I studied kung fu and other martial arts, and then I got really into philosophy in my early 20s, and I thought, what would be more interesting would be to tell some of these stories. So hence the name All Too Human, based on Nietzsche's Human All Too Human, largely.
Theory narrative in film has been, I can only think of a few disasters. Some of them were kind of disastrous.
Oh, closer to the mic.
Well, yeah, there was that one. Wait, let me boost.
And everybody.
Oh my God, it was only at 28.
I know. And everybody subscribe and yada yada yada. Yes.
there's been a few examples that were disasters. I mean, one was all right. I forget what it was called, where they're all in a room, and the guy was a professor, and he was like the Buddha, and he was also Christ, because he lived forever. There was that one. But no, theory fiction in film hasn't been tried, I guess. I mean, well, apart from meme examples like The Matrix. But what you were saying about, I was watching your films with Peter Boghossian, and I hate to say I kind of disagree with every single thing that you've said, but more of from a right-wing perspective. What I mean is that I feel like, having seen the growth, like you were saying, of the new atheists and this sort of reaction to quote unquote social justice ideology, I think I can't help, and again, maybe when the Prudentialist comes, we'll talk about this. I can't help but thinking that there's a misdiagnosis in terms of its origins with like the, Jordan Peterson, spooky, scary, neo-Marxist postmodernism. I think that there's a lot of distinctions between Marxism proper, especially like say 70s Marxism after Althusser, and like what we know as quote unquote postmodern, more appropriate post structuralism. There's a lot of nuances there, and I don't really see a lot of postmodernism within, maybe in a selective sense, but in some ways I would say that they're more essentialist than anything, than certainly more than, for example, Michel Foucault, who I've studied for many years at a graduate level. And so when I hear a lot of this critique from, I guess, what would you call it, Lev? Intellectual dark web, I guess that's the popular phrase. I don't think that there's not an emphasis placed on how, like for example, when Peter Boghossian in your film was going about free dialogue and liberal humanist society, and basically the same sort of communicative rationality that people like, ironically, a postmodernist himself, people like Jürgen Habermas talk about. To me, I don't know. I'm maybe because I'm so cynical and right wing that I can't help but think that we're going to tread over the same mistakes that we have before. But I do commend you for recognizing the limitations within the new atheist movement. In my opinion, I think that a lot of the new atheists actually, the discourse anyways, contributed to the quote unquote social justice people, especially after the atheism plus debacle. There was a few of them that went with the YouTube, like the YouTube people, but then even now, a lot of them, they went to BreadTube, leftist YouTube. I know TJ Kirk, for instance. Oh God, I had an experience with him back in 2007. Terrible. But
well,
a lot of them
Sargon's still hanging in there.
Yeah, Sargon's still hanging in there, and I think he I don't know. He's been a bit better recently, but I think that sort of the dialogue that happened in the new atheist movement. I think that's an overlooked aspect of why what has led to modern quote unquote social justice, because the social justice people, they went right from the atheism plus thing to sort of adopting these like weird secularized, politicized, what would you call them? They would be the equivalent of mystery cults, like the TikTok witches casting spells against racism. Like that's back in the day, they probably were reading Richard Dawkins and so forth. I don't know. So
well, yeah, I mean, I would partially agree and partially disagree. I think that link may be too strong in your wording. I think that this would have emerged no matter what. I don't think that the tearing down of traditional religious structures helped. I agree with you there, but I don't think that, obviously everyone sort of behind the social justice movement was a new. I mean, there are just so many people that don't fit that. Kimberly Crenshaw, Peggy McIntosh. There are just excuse me, so many people that came before that really laid the groundwork for this ideology. So yeah, I think there's a link, but I don't think it's quite as strong as you do. And I would say, I asked Douglas and Pete when I was interviewing them, I was like, do you think that the new atheist movement set this off, and or helped contribute to it? And essentially, they, Douglas in particular said that, well, I think it was going to happen no matter what. And I intend to agree with him. There's a question of degree and how much the new atheist movement may have helped that, because you're right. We went with Atheist Plus, or some people did, and
the Amanda Marcotte, Rebecca Watson people.
Well, Gio, you were asking two things there. You were asking about the origin. I just
remembered Amanda Marcotte. Oh, I have this picture of her in my head. Ugh.
Oh, by the way, I like this comment from ZZ Man. And by the way, send us your super chats as well. We will answer all the super chats. But ZZ Man says CF was right. It was the "fuck you, dad" movement. Now, okay, before, but before that, even Gio, you were talking about two different things. So. One thing you were asking was the.
I don't want to mention CF for OPSEC.
All right. Well, one thing you mentioned was the origin of whether they were Atheist Plus, whether they were somebody else. But before that, you were also mentioning you had disagreements with Peter Boghossian as far as method. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I want to narrow in, like, what exactly are the big problems here, the big disagreements.
I think that we're past the point of...
Mike, closer to Mike.
Sorry, yeah, I can't believe I'm having this problem, Lev. I'm going to go up to 35 now. I think the problem is that a lot of the intellectual dark web people, they what I mean by communicative rationality is that they essentially believe in the Habermasian thing of, like, there will be in some ways a global society where there is free and open dialogue, and that anyone sort of has this, like, public exchange of information that is in some part can, like, through that can lead to the quote unquote marketplace of ideas. And when Peter Boghossian was giving in your film, which I think is important, like, I don't want to totally, just because, like, we're on totally different wavelengths in terms of religiosity doesn't mean I disagree in terms of his methods of how to approach critical dialogue.
Right.
I think that the time for that is over, and we're not going back to that. Or, well,
he would actually agree with you at this point.
Yeah, because it's a sign. I think it's a sign of decadence in some ways. Like the Nietzschean sort of decadence, where we live in a free society where we can openly dialogue with each other, and then through that dialogue we can arrive at optimal solutions. I guess, like that. It smacks of a sort of, like, age of innocence, naivete before experience. We're living through experience right now, and it's
I think I agree. There's a certain naivete.
I don't want to make you throw your friend on the bus, though. I don't.
No. It's fine. I mean, Pete and I have our disagreements as well, but I think they've largely come from me reading a lot of Thomas Sowell. But what would be your solution? What would be your rationale there? Oh yeah. What would you put in its place?
Well, I see the RCMP may be monitoring this call for me, so I can't say my. No, I'm kidding. I really don't know. I think that in some ways a sort of passive balkanization is almost inevitable, but that's also not a solution, because in some ways we're doomed towards a trend of centralization of all things for the time being. And there's people that have a fantasy of their, like, I don't know, like taking the Ted Kaczynski, which I think maybe a lot of people should, or, like, having some fantasy about an ethno state or some kind of free, like, balkanized, like, but then that just turns into Sarajevo circa 1995 pretty quick. I really don't know, because it's very hard to imagine a post-liberal society, which I would optimally want to arrive at. But I do think that the way that we're going now, it's in some ways, even to consent to that dialogue implies that there's sort of a a ground without ideology and without sort of presuppositions that we can even arrive at to begin with. I think what's happening now has always been happening, and in some ways we're more honest about the fact that we've been lied to about this neutral, humanistic, liberal position, that there is this free and open and non-bias public plane that we can access, and that everyone can sort of more or less live together in sort of, the post-war dream. I think that in some ways yeah, solutions always get me going in terms of like getting my head wrapped around it. But I think I don't
Sure.
know. I get, but you see, I get your argument though, because you and Peter and other people and Douglas Murray, your argument is that if we don't persist with a free and open dialogue, if we don't sort of um, make open and free the public, what's the Dave Rubin term, Lev? Um,
The public square.
marketplace of
Yeah,
ideas.
marketplace of ideas.
Then it's inevitably going to lead to, the horrors of the 20th century. But I think that in some ways, in my opinion, I think liberalism is just as much of a totalitarian ideology than the other ones that it defeated in the 20th century. But it's not. We don't have the sort of well, we kind of do have the graveyards. They're just in other countries. They're in the Chinese factories with the suicide nets. They're not here. And so people, what we're seeing a digital graveyard though. In terms of like, there's not an active repression of people. There's more of an abandonment of certain people from the public square, especially in the digital space. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective. I do think though that most of the thinkers that I'm a fan of aren't that naive. I don't think that most of them don't believe in biases or don't believe that we can be free from ideology. So I would say, I mean, Jonathan Haidt has done a lot of important work on that. And yet still pushes for a kind of moral pluralism. So I guess the thinkers that come to mind for me would be more Enlightenment thinkers that are hundreds of years old that thought we could base our exchanges on pure reason. I mean, that's clearly, as you say, not possible and not the case. And so for what I see is a lot more people taking that on board and realizing that, no, we will have our disagreements and we will have our biases. There's no way around that. But to still push for, the open exchange. Again, I just, I mean, I share some of your hesitancy, especially reading A Conflict of Visions by Tom Sowell. I lean a little bit more toward the constrained vision, if you're familiar with that. But I think there's value in both, personally.
What is the constrained vision for those who don't know?
Yeah, so Thomas Sowell coined these phrases, the constrained vision, the unconstrained vision, and they roughly correlate to conservative versus, I would say, progressive visions. The constrained vision is sort of an acceptance of that we all have flaws and that we need systems in place to keep us from being selfish. It's sort of like he would put like Adam Smith in the constrained vision, and many other thinkers. And so basically, he categorized all these various thinkers throughout these last few hundred years as either constrained or unconstrained. The unconstrained vision is, well, we can just make up our own morals and enforce them on other people, and we can just change the system, and the system is what's the problem. Whereas the unconstrained vision folks are much more leery about that. And so I totally I find value in both, and I lean a little bit more towards skepticism of just coming up with our own sense of morality that we can just enforce on other people. I think that's a challenge.
Well, I want to ask this now to our guests here. So we have Uberboyo coming in hot, and also this will be the opportunity for me to relay a dream that I had 2 days ago, where I dreamt that Gio and I were in Coney Island Avenue. For those who are familiar with New York City, it's Brooklyn, Brighton Beach. We were below the train tracks there, and we were moving through this army of these BLM Antifa people who were just standing straight like these soldiers. They were like spaced like a couple of feet from each other, and they were just standing everywhere. They were standing all over the street. They were standing on the sidewalk, and I remember wearing a shirt with Nietzsche on it, which may have been inspired by you, Travis, because you have a shirt with Nietzsche on it in that nice photo that was taken. and it made me think of Uberboyo as well. So I wanted to relay that and circle back to what you said, Travis, about this, how did you phrase it, this Nietzschean decadence that we are in right now. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think that would be able to introduce Uberboyo into this conversation as well, as far as what we're currently facing.
Sorry, me or...
Yes, Travis,
Oh.
Go for it, because you said Nietzschean decadence.
Oh, well, actually, I think it was... I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I said that.
Oh, you said that. Oh, man, see, what is
Gio,
going on with me? Okay, well, Gio, what is Nietzschean decadence?
Oh God, to give the exact definition, was it the genealogy of morals where essentially, yeah. Oh.
Maybe
yeah,
Uberboyo.
Mentioned it in more than one book. Yeah.
Uberboyo,
Yeah,
would you like to do the honors of saying what Nietzschean decadence is? I think you are the resident. Expert on Nietzsche. Although I think you may have frozen still for a second there. I'm not sure what is going on with you. So we're going to see. There may be a situation with the camera.
It basically means like when a society becomes decadent, they become overtly. It's intimately tied again to his later stuff like Twilight of Idols, where he talks about the last man. Like decadence is sort of like an overabundance of one's position in the world. Like
seems to lead to nihilism, right?
Yeah,
that was my take on it.
Yeah. Like for example, the Cambridge, this concept informs his critical affirmative projects, acting as a versatile tool to identify, overcome his own decadence. To resist the decadence of Western culture in 5 major areas of concern: physiology, psychology, art and artists, politics, philosophy. Seems to unmask value cultural phenomena as corrupt. So it's essentially when a civilization becomes overburdened by its own sort of sense of values, when it becomes, in its sort of, I guess Spangler would call it its winter phase. Decadence arrives when you have people that in one respect no longer have a sense of purpose, but in another respect find purpose within trivialities because they're afforded as such, usually at the decline of an empire where all of the territory's been conquered. There's sort of nothing to do. There's no more thumos left. That's sort of like the classic definition of decadence. So
right.
And now that we have Uberboyo here, would you agree, I know you were able to hear the last part of what Gio was talking about with this Nietzschean decadence. Would you agree that we are in this state of Nietzschean decadence?
Yes. Now, I just want to run a couple of tests. First of all, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Good?
Perfect.
Okay, good stuff. We're on the Scarlet. If the internet begins to flicker, because it seems like I have bad internet, please tell me, and I will turn on my iPhone hotspot. And I'm happy to listen for a while to gather more of the juice that is coming out of here to get a better sense of it. But I did hear quite almost everything that you were saying there. I didn't have any breakup. And I guess the first thing that I would say about Nietzschean decadence, there's a lot of very fascinating things. And I actually would...
You got to turn on the iPhone hotspot now. You are not working. Right when you were about to say what the Nietzschean decadence is. I guess this is kind of like the Roko's Basilisk type of thing, where the end product of the decadence, the mother AI, does not allow people to talk about it, which is why Uberboyo was frozen. There we go, you're back. Did you turn the hotspot on? And now you're frozen once again. While Uberboyo is frozen...
No, we're now...
Yes.
We're now on hotspot, so if it
Excellent.
gets bad... If it gets bad, please tell me. This might be an absolute train wreck. Apologies.
Let's see what happens.
Phone mode.
Let's see what happens.
Phone mode completely. I'll show up in my bed, and you're gonna have to deal with me just ranting down the phone. So that'll be the other opportunity. So again, please just tell me if anything goes wrong. Apologies for breaking the flow of the conversation. Let's continue with what I was saying. So Nietzschean decadence. It's not a very complicated idea. You think about an animal. An animal goes through a life cycle. The life cycle begins where you were born, and you were full of a large amount of energy and thumos, and then of course you hit about mid-20s and 30s and 40s, and that's the sort of peak, the apex of your powers, and then you begin to sink after that, and then of course you begin to degrade, and the ability for the life force within the animal to contravene and fight against entropy gets weaker and weaker and weaker until eventually you degrade and you get more prone to disease and all sorts of things. And you break down and you die, basically. The weakness comes in. Now, if you want to look at this in the scale of a civilization, it's the exact same process. You would imagine a body politic. You imagine the body of society, a civilization, as essentially being constitute of cells. So all of us are little battery cells, little mitochondria, running around in this big living organism, which is a society. And of course, when a society is begun, it's high thumos. It's usually a small cluster of cells, a small group of usually dudes who go in and do some type of conquest job.
Mad dudes.
Mad dudes who inseminate the womb of reality and create the state, and then the state and the nation and the society grows, or the culture grows. It reaches its apex, it reaches its peak, it's got its swagger, it swings its big dick around, and then it reaches the sort of golden years, maybe where it's lost its thumos, but it's still got so much power, it's kind of a glorious boomer for a while. And then eventually what happens is the civilization goes through a decaying process, which is the decadent process, precisely. Now, the interesting thing about Nietzsche is that he was suggesting to us that this decaying process is in alignment with the arrival of what we call moralized or moralizing. And basically, if you want to think about it this way, what is the chant of death? What does death demand for? The death is the great equalizer, and entropy is the great equalizer. It pulls everything back down. And the great unequal force of life and nature is the anti-equality ascendant shooting up energy. And so when civilization begins, just like when a person begins, they're full of this life energy, and their view of the world is very instinctively anti-equal. It's very, very ruthless. It's very, very creative. It's very, very new and fresh and dynamic and dangerous and all sorts of things. It's like a volatile bomb going off. Of course, when you get to the end of this, what you begin to see is the arrival, the changing of the mind. Once the life force is gone, what arrives then is a sort of introduction. Entropy appears within the minds of the people in the form of prophecies of equality and preachers of equality, as Nietzsche called them, and all sorts of things that start to demand a new way of seeing the world that is essentially this spiritual unwinding of the bonds and things that held everything together, the subversion of strict and stringent morality, which, despite maybe its flaws, definitely held things together. And then the arrival of what you might call moralism, which is a slightly different thing than maybe instinctive morals. It's a sort of like ideological morality and all these type of things. And Nietzsche said some very shocking things. Like, for example, he said that Christianity was the example of this happening to Rome. And that was precisely where you see the people, the mitochondria, pick up a prophecy of equality and then pull down the entire civilization along with it in order to reform the thing. It turns into the death of Rome. Of course, it's a complicated conversation, but it's what Nietzsche frames. And then, of course, there's many, many instances throughout all of the world where this happens. Almost every society shows these things. You see people like Oswald Spengler talk about it. And of course, in our society, I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't assume that we're probably going through something very, very similar, a very mass swell of decadent forces that are coming up, and they're proposing various things about wokeness, consciousness, equality, these type of things. And as Nietzsche said, the great education that a Western man is going to experience over the next 100 years since he wrote is the punishment, the visceral punishment that a beautiful idea carried by a resentful ideologue can impose upon a healthy population and normal people. They can destroy them. And Russia was, phase number one, and you wonder what phase part two would be.
Well, I wanted to actually grill you on something, Uberboyo, but let's get Travis's before I go. Travis's opinion on that.
Well, and also, Travis, your opinion, as well as if you would be able to channel. Yes, we have Remus, we have Prudentialist. But I was wondering, Travis, if you would be able to channel.
It's like a healthy organ, like when the Prudentialist. It's like when your kidney fit. Was it
Prudentialist? Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, he's got a new one, so I can make that joke.
Yes. No, but I want to see, Travis, if you would be able to, let's say, channel the spirit of someone like Peter Boghossian, as far as, like, would you say that Peter Boghossian is a fan of Spengler, or no? Or a lot of people around? See, because I want to find out what the difference is here, like where the disagreement really is. I'm all about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know his take on Spengler. I'm not actually familiar, to be frank, with Spengler, so I can't answer that. I wanted to sort of echo what Uberboyo was saying. I think that sort of life force was found in and exemplified by Zarathustra, and he was the one that was sort of going against the grain. And I also like to link it to nihilism, because I think with decadence comes a certain kind of nihilism, which you see, I think, very clearly in the particular particularly in the woke movement. I think it ends in a kind of nihilism that just sort of tears everything apart.
But what would be the concern of let's forget Peter Boghossian for a second, but people who are, let's say, around the same kind of like IDW circle,
liberal,
yeah,
like classic liberal,
yeah, like when it comes to people like not just Nietzsche or not just Spengler, but let's say the complaints they would make about what those particular ideologies end up leading to, looking at things that happened in the 20th century. So I want to see, like, would you go whole hog in favor for a lot of these things that were talked about, even though, let's say, people in the IDW would be concerned about certain aspects of those things, like Spengler and Nietzsche and what they may bring?
Can you be more specific on what?
Sure, I could be incredibly specific. The specificity,
like the destruction of liberal values.
Yes, exactly. Destruction of liberal values.
I'd love to have a take on this as well.
Absolutely,
go on.
Absolutely. So, Travis, go for it. Then Uberboyo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm skeptical of making any kind of totalizing claim or claim that needs to apply to every other person. So I may not want to throw my hat in that ring, so to speak. I mean, I have my own values, and I have certain orientations that naturally my own biases I want those orientations to be other people's orientations and the way in which we construct society, but I'm really skeptical as to whether or not one person can really direct society in a productive manner, or come up with an idea that is so efficient and effective for everyone. So I want to just put my skepticism out there for that, if that makes sense.
So what would be the political system, or rather, what would be some way that we can balance out preventing communism, or, whatever woke ideology would be rising up,
sure,
versus doing it so much that you end up, goose-stepping all the way to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to find the balance here. Because it's important, because it keeps coming up, this question.
Yeah. Well, Douglas would argue for some kind of benign form of Christianity, and I'm a little bit on the fence as to whether that's the solution. I'm open to that as a possibility. I don't know that there's a good answer. I mean, I certainly am a favor of liberal democracy. I've read a lot of Steven Pinker and others who show the benefits of these systems, and I do believe in them. But there are flaws within them, and there are flaws within capitalism. There are flaws within liberal democracies. So it's hard to say. But so far, it's, in my opinion, as it has been said, it's the best worst system that we have, as far as I can tell.
It's funny, monetizing leftism. Poor old Nietzsche had to turn all of his waste life force transcendence into a decadent exercise. Word upon word. Well, actually, he recognized that in Twilight Veils. He said he was aiming for higher decadence, so he recognized that he himself was a decadent thinker.
Interesting.
But I don't know.
And also, we got to go to Uberboyo as well.
Yeah, But I was just gonna say, Pinker, I think to him, his system is perfection, because never mind. I'm not going to mention Steven Pinker and all of his foibles, but go ahead, Uberboyo.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask Uberboyo specifically about Nietzsche, but go ahead.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'd like to give a answer contextual to sort of what I'm hearing. And for example, Travis brought up Douglas Murray. Now, I'm going to disagree hard here, and I'm going to do it I mean it as a gentleman. Like, there's just a gentleman's disagreement, but
Sure
I'd like to be blunt in some type of ways. I believe that a lot of those guys in the IDW and whatnot are just fundamentally incorrect. And I think the position of being incorrect comes from a lack of imagination in some sense. And I would even say a lack of thumos. Like, they're literally almost like a symptom of the problem we're talking about. So this a contextual way of looking at this civilizational thing. Now, you can't disagree with the model I'm presenting. That's no problem at all. But I'm sort of suggesting the sort of Nietzschean idea of a civilization is like a living animal, and it goes through a rising of thumos, sort of peak, an apex, a zenith, and then a decline. And during that decline, what is operant, what appears the most, is a parody a false set of values that claim they represent what made that civilization. Like, for example, we think of the West as the liberal West. This is Jordan Peterson's sort of talking point. We see the West as created by the liberal values that we chose in order to carry us forward, the libertarian values, and classically libertarian values of the West. But Nietzsche would disagree, and it's a very good argument that Nietzsche says, is that that was almost like a dress that we wore. But what was real about the West was the savage, burning thumos that was rising them out of, Europe after the fall of Rome, the German energy, if you want to talk about it, which is what the kings were at all that type of time. And once that burned out, all that was left was this husk of an ideology that we have now taken on board and assumed that that's what made society great. But that wasn't it at all. It never was. That's a complete mistake, a complete false. And this is what Nietzsche talks about in Twilight of the Idols, a misplacing of cause and effect. The values did not create the West. In fact, Nietzsche specifically brings up one of the most, one of the kind of most Nietzschean statements of all, where he says Socrates was a decadent, and the appearance of Socrates with his whole rational moralism and explanation of Greek morality was
the weak
a signal.
Conquering the strong.
Was the signal that the Greeks had lost their thumos. Before that, what you had is a load of people who didn't question their myths and what worked very much on instinct, and they had reached the apex of their power. And the Greeks were an incredibly powerful and creative people. And then Socrates shows up just right at this moment where they begin to moralize, they begin to conceptualize what they are and form a sort of a rationalist identity of what they are. Very much so like a sort of liberal, classical liberal identity of what they are. And, pretty soon after that, I believe they were conquered. I'm not sure how soon, but it's a lot of things sort of went wrong after that. And this is they were conquered by Alexander the Great's dad, I believe. I think that's what almost immediately happened after that. Aristotle taught Alexander, and then they were conquered. And this is the kind of
Philip II of Macedon.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's a really, really interesting way to look at things. It's like, or the second Socrates shows up, it's like a signal that something's fucked up. Again, and look, it's complicated, but his Nietzsche suggestion is that when Christ shows up and Rome accepts Jesus, you have within 40 years the collapse of the Roman Empire, the Western Roman Empire. And that's another example of this arrival of a new ideology that has this very interesting, shocking collapse that happens afterwards. And it's the same sort of thing now. Like, we look around and we have this enlightenment now, this classical liberal take that suggests that what the West were these values. And that's absolutely not correct, because we don't even understand human psychology enough to be able to place values as mattering that much. Really, what drove us was, in some sense, the instincts that were burning off many, many thousands of years of evolution, and we sort of burnt them out in some type of sense. And so the problem, and this is a very serious problem, if you accept the model, as I said, you can disagree with it and like poke away at it, but this is Nietzsche's suggestion, is that we've come around about the 19th century to this window of history where we've basically burnt out of thumos. We've used up all our mana, all our life force. We have no thumos left. And what's going to happen now is we're going to spiral, and this is the sort of decadence thing, we're going to spiral into chaos, a quote unquote God is dead period. And during this period, a lot of things are going to sort themselves out. It'll be like the fall of Rome. There'll be this jostling for power and ideologies. And, for at the end of Rome, the Germans rose up as the conquerors and established the Western culture as we understand it. But the same sort of passage is happening right now. And his dire warning is that the power of mechanical states and the power of the resentful energy and the beautiful lies of equality and all this type of stuff is going to create mass movements of just absolute shocking degrees of incredible dehumanizing torture that will be so higher nature and everything that will be absolutely shocking. And his whole statement, his whole impetus, his whole suggestion is that these people, I don't want to say leftist because it's way more complicated than that, but you could say the sort of representative as the extreme left are highly energized because they're highly unhappy, highly resentful, and highly driven towards, they're representing the force of entropy in its purest form. And so they're the most animated and driven people. And the only resistance to that, as we understand in sort of typical, maybe you could say political dichotomy, is that you have what we might understand as a conservative or something like this. Or what that really means is like a classical liberal, a sort of ideologue, a decadent in a way, who sees what the West is as something that needs to conserve, which is these liberal values and all this this type of stuff. And these people aren't going to offer any resistance. And Nietzsche speaks about this at the start of Zarathustra. He has Zarathustra walk up to a group of people and say, look at these crazy, they're not leftists, but he's kind of pointing at them. Look at these crazy, resentful preachers of equality. They're so inspired. Look how inspired they are. Look how fired up they are. Now, when you talk about your values and your God and your Christianity and your West and your reality, you're not inspired at all. You're dead. Your soul is empty. You don't feel anything. There's no energy in you. These people, even though it's a negative energy, at least they have energy. These people are going to get stuff done. You're not. You're not going to get anything done because you've got no thumos. You've got no energy inside of you because you haven't gone into yourself and discovered that. You understand what we need to do? We need to rediscover this. And so he proposes that what you need is a lightning bolt to come down and re-energize you and lift you up and fill you with that thumos again, the thumos that possessed the Germans in order to create the new West that they created in the carcass of the Roman Empire. And of course, his suggestion is the Ubermensch. Again, you don't have to agree with it, but it's a very interesting model. And he's pushing at that idea of I'm being mean to Douglas Murray, but for example, people like Douglas Murray are representative of literally like a lack of will to fight, not even fight, but create a new direction, which is actually the correct response to the problem. The problem is you need to get an anti-entropic force, a living force, something that's ascendant, something that's willing to be dangerous and playful and take risks and create something new, and something that's even willing to push people around a little bit, sadly. Because if you don't, well, you can look forward to having to eat your children because there's a famine because the communists couldn't organize the society or something like this.
The inner kitty squat houses, they can't.
Yeah, no, it's obviously more complicated. Pretty broad stroke.
That's what I'm. I was just going to say that that's essentially what I am attempting to do with my series. And I mean, this might make me something of a postmodernist, but I'm really skeptical of these grand meta narratives of history and applying them in the way that that Nietzsche did and the way that you're doing now. I have to express
fair enough
quite a dose of skepticism, given that just given my reading of history, reading Neil Ferguson talking about the rise and fall of civilizations and just the way in which they do follow something of a similar pattern, but they're often reborn in various ways. So it's not like China has been around for a very long time, and it's seen all kinds of, emperors and all kinds of. Oh, there you go. You got to wait. It's gone up and down. So I don't know. I'm skeptical of this idea that the West is now completely going to decline, and it's all going to be because of the leftists, and that no one's going to fight back. I'm very skeptical.
Well, I think some people will, but they'll have to do it with incredible strength and resistance, and maybe it'll require people being uncomfortable with certain ideologies that are verboten. But I
do want to kind of ask that. Like,
can I?
Oh
no, but before we go, Remus, I wanted to say really quickly that I agree with Travis in the sense that Nietzsche was too caught up in the German identity. He didn't realize that us Mediterraneans really did all of it, and that the Eastern Roman Empire, that thumos transmuted to the Eastern Roman Empire, and that Christianity, apostolic Christianity, before the Protestants came along, that they were the ones who were carrying the torch, and they were fighting off an external civilization in the Ottoman Turks. But that's another issue. For example, in Germania, the Romans were totally just owning them during Aurelius's time, way before the German ideology came about. But that's just my own foible. I do think that Nietzsche's half right. But I would also ask Uberboyo, there's this great logo to actually, Remus, go, because
I just wanted to
long
say
of a
that
point.
Yes.
it's not it's not that
Lou.
I wouldn't say that it's leftists per se that are gonna cause this. It's everybody. Like no one is out of no one doesn't share everyone shares the responsibility here.
Oh, by the way, can you talk closer to the mic? Because I've been.
Am I too far?
I think you are too far. Because people say I'm too loud. I think I'm just right, and everybody else is too quiet.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
So my idea here is that though some people see sort of the leftist as like the agent of change, the one who is cutting at the tree, the one who's trying to destroy the tradition, I think it's more the responsibility of the people who have the tradition, who are trying to keep the tradition, to keep it alive, at the behest or rather at the defying the wolves at their door, right? You can't say that it's all their fault that what's happening in your house is happening. I think we all share this responsibility, just as much as Steven Pinker is responsible. I'm responsible. Lev's responsible, right? All of us have this. We all have a role to play, and I think ultimately the thumos, the power, right? That I don't think it's going to come from without, man. I think it's going to have to come from within. I think all of us are going to have to make a decision at some point, because many of us, as Uberboyo was saying, Zarathustra, man, he's not seeing a lack of energy from people that he sees as his opponents, right? They're already ready to go. So if their ideological opponents and the people that we see as potential allies in trying to sort of keep a society that we want functioning, we're gonna have to at some point decide to make a stand or do something, right? And I don't think as much as I understand the point that people like Steven Pinker are making, it just feels like it feels like he's giving it, he's like, well, it's not so bad. Look at all these good things that are happening, right? It's like avert your eyes from the burning, building. Look
We're
at all
not
this
killing
other
each
stuff.
other as much anymore. That's good.
Travis, yes.
I don't think that's what he's saying at all, personally. But go ahead.
Okay, well that's fair, but
But what is he saying in the I think you're referring to Better Angels of Our Nature.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And Enlightenment Now. I mean, he makes it very clear that he just wants to mark our progress. He's saying that we need to make a lot more progress, and the impetus is on us to do exactly as you say, to take a stand, to make life better, to make democracy better, whatever it is. He's very, very clear multiple times in both books that this is he's not being Pollyannish and saying like, oh, we've arrived at this glorious utopia. He's saying no, we're far from that, but along the way, look at the progress that we've made, and what the reason that he's saying that is so that we feel encouraged to make more. So I would think that's I think that's often mischaracterized of his work, personally.
Well, Travis,
I think that's fair actually, but it's kind of like it's one of those situations where it's like it's what they say versus what people take from it, right? And I think ultimately,
still think he's wrong.
Yeah, like ultimately, it, as fucked up as it sounds, it matters less what he actually thinks and wrote, and it matters more what people think he is saying and what people think he is trying to do, because that's what they're going to act on, not necessarily what. It's not about Steven Pinker, right? It's about the idea itself. And I understand what you're saying, right? I agree with you to a degree, right? I just don't think that.
Well, and I'm saying that people have gotten the idea wrong. The idea is actually clear in the book, and so I've had this argument many times with people who take that view. And I'm sorry to interrupt. I just think that it's actually the idea that people have gotten wrong, not necessarily how he's saying it.
But then it doesn't matter, because if enough people think that he's saying B, even if he's saying A doesn't really matter at that point. Unfortunately,
one of the points that we went back to,
it's kind of
then there's no personal integrity.
Yeah, it's kind of like Nietzsche at this point. Like most people think of Nietzsche as the God is dead guy, and they don't actually understand anything that he's saying at all. Like they completely misunderstand it. Yeah.
But that's the thing.
A lot of people associate with him with Nazism, which is totally wrong.
and
I actually went to I went to a debate with I forget his name now. I got because my second reader was organizing it, so I got to talk to him. The guy who wrote that book about how reading Nietzsche and Heidegger makes you a Nazi, and he was the guy that kicked out Michael Millerman. If you are familiar with the case, he was his first PhD supervisor, And I remember talking to him about, I go, what about Evola? What about this? And he goes, Nazi. That's all. No, it's all fascism. But what I wanted to press, it's funny Remus mentioned that, but I wanted to specifically grill Uberboyo a bit on. But before
before that, I just want to make sure, Travis, you said an hour, so I want to make sure how you're doing time wise, and I really appreciate the fact that you were here talking with us.
I could save my point for later.
Let's see. I think I have an appointment at 1:30. So, let's see. Yeah, at 1:30. So I can go for maybe 20 more minutes.
Excellent.
Excellent. There's this great essay you might like, Uberboyo, before I criticize Nietzsche. It's written by the neo-Marxist Lukács.
Bloody hell.
George Lukács. It's in his book. It's not the whole book is on, but you can find his specific chapter in Nietzsche on the Marxist.org. You know that. I mean,
I'm getting this guy who made Star Wars. I'm Googling this, and there's this guy who keeps on popping up who made Star Wars. Am I spelling George Lucas right?
Lukács. It's Lukacs. It's called The Destruction of Reason. And he writes specifically this chapter in Nietzsche, and he's criticizing him because he doesn't have the same moral foundation as Kant. He's basically saying that he led to the Nazis because Nietzsche views class struggle as a war of the higher type and the lower type against the higher type. And he's talking about how Nietzsche's criticism of the Enlightenment, which is the basis of a lot of Marxoid thinking. It's sort of like one of those articles where it's criticizing Nietzsche, but it's like that John Winthorpe tweet that people capped before he got banned, where what was it, Lev? You forgot to insert you forgot to attach the GigaChat image. So if you know what I mean, it's one of those articles. But what I would criticize Nietzsche on is there was this great tweet by Logo, but it wasn't by Logo. It was originally by Alan Bloom. No, sorry, Harold Bloom, and not Alan Bloom. God. Harold Bloom in the Straussian, the Closing of the American Mind, where Logo says that we're living in a left Nietzschean world, and that the SJWs are the real Nietzscheans, and it's basically taking from that essay by Bloom from Closing the American Mind. It's called The Infatuation with Left Nietzscheanism, meaning this obsession with sort of perspectivalism and individualism and sort of the quest for recognition that is free of a dialectic, for example, Hegel, because Nietzsche abhorred dialectics. We see now that in other words, the SJW is the real Nietzscheans. What do you think of that, Uberboyo?
and Travis as well. I wanted to get both of you.
Travis, yeah, and then Prudentialist.
Yes, Prudentialist got to speak as well.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to go through three things. I'd like to talk about Steven Pinker, then I'd talk about Lucas, and I'm going to ask Gio to just tell me a little bit more about him. And then I'd definitely like to talk about Nietzsche and leftism. So I'll be probably ranting. So if you want to let Travis go there first, I'm absolutely happy. Or if you want, I can just go for an absolute tear.
Well, all right, let's go to Travis first, because I know that Travis has to go pretty soon. And also after that answer, I would be interested in hearing Travis's solutions to, maybe we'll save that for the last. Like the last question that I would want to ask Travis is kind of like a multi-step plan of how we actually go about utilizing the, let's say, liberal society that we still have to a certain extent to save it from the cancerous elements. But Travis, before that just like let that marinate in your head for a little bit. But before that, let's go to Gio's question regarding Nietzsche and Nazism and all that.
Oh yeah, I don't think I could disagree more. I often like to hypothesize that the type of Ubermensch he was mentioning and the Hyperboreans that he mentions in Antichrist is the type of person that I am trying to be, but with a lot of skepticism and not such a grandiose view of myself. but I like his framing, and I'm caught between like that way of thinking in terms of the creation of your own values, which is very important to me once I left Christianity, and yet as I mentioned earlier, Thomas Sowell's constrained vision. I think there's something to that as well. So like again, I'm really hesitant to prescribe any kind of grand narrative for society, or to say the way in which it's going and the way in which it's going to go. I'm just very skeptical of all of that. But in terms of the question, yeah, I've always taken an issue with people connecting Nietzsche to nihilism and postmodernism, because they sometimes people say he's the father of postmodernism, but I think that's just a misreading of Nietzsche, and I think that he was very much against nihilism and against what would ultimately, in my opinion, lead to these far left ideologues. That's my opinion, but I'm happy to hear Uberboyo. Yeah.
Sweet. So I've got a lot of I'm just going to try organize this all in my brain the best I can. The first one was, of course, the Pinkner question. Now I've turned up my mic to compete with Lev. I'm all jealous of he getting to go heavy metal mode in us all, and I have to have my little bitch microphone here. But if it starts to glitch, just tell me and I'll stop it. The Pinkner question is quite an interesting one because, for example, I think Travis is absolutely correct. Like, a lot of people will assume that like Pinkner's up there and just chanting like, oh yeah, and he's like a fanboy for some type of simplistic version of liberal society or something like this, but he really is just trying to document like these are all the measures and the metrics of progress. Like, these are all these things that have gone good now, and this is the classic edgy Nietzschean take. But why is any of that stuff good? Why is what
we're herd
is
animals now?
Yeah, and we would conceptualize a lot of the things he would conceptualize as progressive or signaling a advancement forward are very, very questionable. I think it's fair to question them. I know it's like it might be a bit like reactionary edgy, but it is fair to question them. Like, what value is there in looking at the average man that we have nowadays, where
Sure.
like look outside the fucking window, man, for the last couple of months, like people are not getting any more individualistic, they're not getting any more free thinking, they're not getting any more intellectual, they're not thinking by themselves. In fact, people are starting to conglomerate and homogenize into a single unit of thinking, becoming mass consumers, and like it's not pretty what's going on. And in fact, Nietzsche's the like specific categorization 150 years ago was that there would be the ascension of this thing he called the last man, which is the least evolved, like the worst direction human evolution could go, and this would be the future would be the ascendancy of this character. And I think that has come true. I think he was on the money with that. And people like Pinkner, I understand what they're saying, and I get it. Like, you know, it is nice to give the poor food. Like, I'm not saying go around and be like, take the food off the poor or something like this, but it's not, I don't think it's the correct ambitious metric. I don't think it is in that type of way. And when you talk about nihilism, I think the reason why people grab onto these things is because people don't have the thumos to do anything by grabbing to this stuff. They can only grab onto things like save the world, or make all the countries be democratic, whatever that means, or all these type of things. And it's a very, very poor measurement of progress. And what I don't see is any type of ability for them to sort of say, what if there was a different progress? Maybe this progress is wrong. What is sort of going on here? Like, is this really the ascendancy of these metrics that is going to define our civilization? Because, for example, I don't think they defined our civilization before, when we were at its apex, when the West was at its ascendancy. I don't think democracy was really on their fucking tongues at all. They were thinking about how do we spread Christianity to the barbarians, was usually what they were thinking. And that was actually a secret cloak for something underneath them, which was the ancient creative spirit, which was a little bit violent and dangerous as well. And I think that's again, very Nietzschean, and you can disagree with it all you wish, but I think it's a very, very interesting take. Now, you guys began to mention how Steven Pinkner is often misinterpreted, but the ideas he represents are quite important. So again, I think this comes back to the way Nietzsche looks at this stuff, which is so interesting in that, Steven Pinkner is like a figurehead for a collective herd idea, and like a group of people have a certain idea. In fact, he would go a level beneath that, and he would say a group of people have an emotion or an instinct. So for example, molest, you know, it's a category we place on a certain type of person, but what's actually operant within them is a sizzling resentment. And it's a set of, you could say, physiological traits nearly to some extent. Whereas, and there's even been like strange evidence about this, that like if you put on more muscle mass and increase testosterone, you begin to develop right-wing views. And I'm not trying to say that as like Jim Chad, be right-wing, build a wall or something like that. But like, you know, you can kind of see where they're going with this, that there is a sort of physiological connection to what we think. And so you could look at a leftist or a communist, or what some people might nowadays call a socialist, even though these things are simplistic, you could look at that as a physiological part of society. And maybe it is the ideology of the last man. And of course, Nietzsche had this most damning suggestion of all, because he was a realist about this. And this is sort of tying into what Gio was asking. He realized that the conservatives of the West aren't going to win because they don't have the thumos. And there's almost no way around that. Like these things operate over the courses of centuries, and the conservative West is burned out. It just doesn't have the will. And these resentful people who are fired up, they do. And so what is probably going to ascend, what is going to win? It's like the question with Christianity or something like this. What won at the end of Rome was Christianity. And so what he sees with the ascendancy of democracy and the creation of this last man is this opportunity for a set of tyrants to ascend. Democracy will leave the opportunity for an ascendancy of tyrants, people who will be able to take the last man, the average man, and the consumer that was forming, and bullshit them into ruling them basically in some type of very extreme way. And it's a shocking statement, which I look around quite a lot and say to myself, he was kind of on point with that as well.
Well, wouldn't you say that he predicted Hitler in that sense?
So I'll get to the Nazis now in a second, because that's a really interesting question.
Don't you think the SJWs have the will to power now more than anybody? I mean, come on.
So there's a couple of different slants on sort of what Gio was saying. So I guess I'll go to the left thing first, and then we'll go to Hitler afterwards. Delightful. We'll talk about all the good points now. The SJWs on some level would, because they are the people who are animated enough to actually try to recraft the world in their own image. Like, they're people creating their own values. What's that Vaush guy? I don't listen to him too much, but I remember I tuned into him talking about transhumanism or something one day, and he was talking about being transsexual, and he was saying, and it was actually so interesting listening to him, because you hear the way he talks about it, and he's like, man, there's nothing more like cowardly and cuckoldy and bitchy and like more it's nothing more pathetic than being constrained by what your body is. Nothing describes the power of will more than your ability to recraft your body into what your mind sees it as. Then there's no more dominance of your mind over your body than your ability to just cut your dick off and like turn it into a vagina or something like this. And you're kind of thinking, this is a bit fucked up, but you actually get where he's coming from. Like, he has that obnoxious, shocking desire to recraft the world. Now,
in the VR pod, you're going to be trans. You're going to be a trans anime person in the VR pod.
You will. The AR fashion will make it so that you're anyone. I'm going to just walk around as Bill Cosby. Yeah.
and in some sense, like, you have to start asking very serious questions, because like, I don't know, will Vaush and that, like, the transsexual movement and all that stuff, win long term and establish a new society where everybody is like, free to choose their identities without the foundations of the entire thing imploding, like what happened in Rome. Like, there's such a huge risk there, a monumental risk for something like that to happen. But say they they pull it off, like, you can see that sort of animation within them where they will recraft the world. They'll try it anyway, to try rebend the world into a vision of what they want. Now, on some level, they possess the will to power. They possess the ability to craft new values, and it's kind of shocking what they are, but they have it. They do have that.
But the values themselves seem to be very empty.
Well, what are the values?
That's the link to nihilism, in my opinion.
It's more like that they're corrupt. Like, I think like the idea
they're Gnostic in some
ways. Like, okay, like there's this idea in occultism, right? That to take something that is sacred and make it profane gives power.
Counter initiation.
Right? Yeah, exactly. It gives power, right? So you can look at the trans movement as a corruption of the idea of the rebus, or like the Gnostic, or not even necessarily Gnostic, Hermetic, all of Western occultism has this idea, right, of the fusion of the masculine and feminine inside of you, right? Mutilating yourself is not the same thing as that, obviously, and anyone that you tell that to would understand. But if you say fusion of masculine and feminine in the modern age, everyone just thinks of trans people. Right, there's no understanding that it's like, no, this is something much more different, and I think the corruption of such, even though they may have the quote unquote will right now, it's wholly, it's like it's more like an oil spill than a fucking, than growth. Like, it's not
but this is
growth.
But there's also nothing really being created here, as far as I see, and I could be wrong.
Yeah, but
most
it's more destructive.
Most of the things that I see coming from a lot of these folks, there doesn't seem to be any kind of big project that ends up showing off how creative somebody is. A lot of it's just like a copy of a copy of a copy of, you know, whatever hairstyle they happen to like. But I do want to get back to Travis, just because I know that there's not that much time that he has right now before his appointment. And I want to specifically ask Travis about the thumos question that Uberboyo was pointing out in relation to the people who are trying to save Western civilization today. Do you agree that they don't have enough of the thumos? Will they ever have the thumos? And I guess that'll kind of bring in the last question that I have for you, which is a multi-step plan to getting that thumos back if it's not there right now.
Yeah, I do have to go soon, but I will say that it's a microcosm and it's an anecdote, but the reaction that I have seen to my series has been overwhelmingly positive, and people have been motivated to make changes. I mean, you see various school boards or people being recalled from school boards, certain politicians being recalled because of they're pushing this stuff. I mean, I don't want to minimize the danger and the problem and the energy that the other side has, but I do see a swelling of support and energy on it's honestly it's a combination of liberal, conservative, and even some progressive voices who don't go along with this, right? And I see them being more and more energized as time goes on. I'm really skeptical. Again, Nietzsche is brilliant, but again, applying these sort of grand narratives and predicting the future based on the past I think it's a dangerous route to go on, personally, and I wouldn't venture there myself. But yeah, I'm sorry. What was the last question, or what was?
Well, the last question has.
So you don't agree with the Lindy principle? No.
Well, okay. The last question has to do again with this idea of thumos, where do the people who we currently have representing the people who would advocate for Western values, do those people have enough thumos, have enough fire in their belly, have enough of whatever you want to call? What does that sound? Is that?
Sorry, it's somebody's mowing the lawn outside.
That sounds like a ship. It sounds like...
Sorry.
No problem at all. So my question again goes back to this idea of thumos. Do the people who we currently have right now defending Western Civ, do they have enough of that fire in their belly, that kundalini, whatever you want to call it, just that primal energy that would make them somebody for people to look at, not just in this clean way of, oh, I agree with the point you have to make, but something deeper than that?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just an anecdote, so I don't want to say this is true for all of society by any stretch of the imagination, but from what I'm seeing, I mean, people like Pete have an incredible fire in their belly to do things that go against, what he calls the enemies of Western civilization. So I do see a lot of that, and I see a lot of projects happening to push back. So personally, I do see it. Whether or not it'll be enough, I can't say. And one quick note on Pinker and anyone who is misinterpreted, I take issue with that, because like someone may misinterpret my work, and maybe a whole bunch of people might misinterpret my work, but my intentions are very clear, and what I say is very clear, and what is in the documentary is very clear. So if people en masse happen to think that it's some right-wing propaganda, well then fuck them. I don't care. And so that's just
no. I think the issue there though was not that people would think it's right-wing, although I'm sure many people do, obviously. But my issue would be, or rather Gio's issue would be, that people would see him talking about how there's all these great things that are symbols of progress, yet the issue may be for people like Uberboyo that those very things that he would look at as being examples of progress were the very seeds that were sown of the destruction of the very system that is valued.
Look at the. Well,
and I'm not saying I agree with that, but
yeah, I think we'd have to be a lot more specific, and it would take a lot of time.
Well, look at the trans issue. I mean, there is this one. I don't want to say woman misgender, mispronoun. This person on Twitter was saying, and got totally ratioed, by the way, thank God, that maybe we should put every child on hormone blockers and give them the option. That, to me,
right.
This is liberal individualism, though. this is the end result of this liberal tradition of extreme individualist choice and free action.
Autonomy worship.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a specific manifestation, I guess.
Well, even though a lot of classic liberals would be against that.
Oh,
yeah. Well, I think more and more people are recognizing the benefits of tribalism. I mean, Sebastian Junger wrote a book called Tribe, where he talks about the benefits of this collective identity. And yeah, it's fantastic. And so I think more and more people are waking up to the importance of that. Like the hyper individualism stuff doesn't work. It may work on an individual level at times, and I don't think we should jettison it. But the collective is very important. Jonathan Haidt talks a lot about that. A lot of other people do. I'm sorry I have to go, but I really do. I have an appointment. But it's been great chatting with all you
Travis,
guys. And
great pleasure. Please
Awesome.
follow Travis Brown on Twitter. Here is the link. Become the Signal. There's so much noise on the internet that I really appreciate when actual signals come along, if you catch that reference. So, Travis, again, thank you so much. Please follow Travis on Twitter at Become the Signal, and also watch his amazing documentary, which I'm going to load right now for everybody, The Woke Reformation. The Woke Reformation, everybody. I'm going to link to that as well on YouTube. And again, Travis, thank you so much for being here. I hope to talk to you again, and wishing you the very best in the rest of the day, week, year, all that stuff.
Absolutely, and likewise, and thanks to everybody. I really appreciate it.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you. Take care.
Awesome.
So here it is. Here is the link for the Woke Reformation, and bam, there it is. Everybody, don't forget to subscribe, and keep subscribing. Patreon.com. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I want to get back to Uberboyo right now.
Someone mentioned Jihad versus McWorld too. That's
man. Okay, so the lighting isn't bad, but I do want to say, Uberboyo, you're like a shadow person right now. So I don't know if there's any. No problem at all.
No,
I mean, you got such a handsome face. You know, like why hide it from the world?
Thank you. You've already cooked me in the audio. I'll let you face mug me as well. I'll let you face mug me.
I love how Uberboyo, like, he's got that like typical Irish storyteller. Like when you watch his videos, like I was watching the recent one about confidence. It's kind of like if Mike Cernovich didn't have like kind of like that type of nasally voice.
So effeminate.
Yeah, but like if he had more drive.
Oh, we gotta get Cernovich on. Like, we gotta get Cernovich on.
We gotta get Cernovich. I remember the one video.
You say one thing against that dude, he blocks you.
Yeah, I remember. Well, kind of like Paul Scalis.
Just say you want to do ayahuasca with him. He'll come on.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, we're in good relations.
I remember like the way he used to say in the one video. He's like conservative. Like I love the way he said it back in the day. Conservative. Like it's oh my god.
It's like the Richard Spencer burger that he
like a burger with I can't do it like with portobello mushrooms and melted cheese.
No, I want to get back to the thing we were talking about.
I just think you people are cucked if you don't accept the Fauci ouchie. I mean, you people. I mean, Israel has mass Fauci ouchies. Why can't so apparently if it's good enough for the Israelis, according to Spencer, then it's good. It works
for me, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, if it's good enough for the goose, it's good enough
for the
gander.
Like ironically enough, before we go to Uberboyo, that's the exact same logic against the quote unquote conspiracy theories that the one video from who's that like science? I fucking love science YouTube people that do like the kitschy like neon animations.
Yeah, SciShow. It's John Green and Hank Green's.
No, the Kurtzgard.
Kurtzgard, yeah.
Kurzgesagt.
Kurtzgesagt.
People.
Yeah, the Bugman people. Yeah. They did this one video where they were quote unquote.
Did you know that science has proved that it's better to suck your own cock every day?
Yeah,
like, thank you, man. Come on.
But that's the ultimate Ouroboros.
Yeah, the ultimate Ouroboros forms. Chop and Divide. No, sorry, I'm getting my cynic lyrics confused. Chop and Divide God's Dream Thoughts was from Veil of Maya, not from Ouroboros forms. No, they had this one video debunking conspiracy theories where they said, well, all of these plans, like chemtrails, they're going to affect the elites too. So that means, and then I remember Alex Jones said this years ago where he's like, you got to realize that these people are nihilists. They don't care about themselves. They want to obliterate humanity. That's the answer to these people. They have no higher values. They worship materialism and science, and therefore they think that just because the elites are going to be affected. The elites don't care. The elites probably have some kind of reptilian defense system against all the food and poison.
Oh, wait. By the way,
chemicals in
speaking
water.
of elites, look at this picture. See, this is...
Oh my God.
That hair.
Who's the guy next to you and Jules and Cernovich?
Yeah, that dude is fucking skull mogging the absolute
Yeah.
out of Mike Cernovich. Holy shit. Also, Jules just mogging. All of you are mogging Mike Cernovich. That's hilarious. He's not as red
Even
as
Jules.
I expected him to be. So he always looks so red and sweaty. I'm just so confused.
The best is when Cernovich had the bun like I have, but he kind of looked like Rob Van Dam. And I remember I tweeted that nobody got that reference because Rob Van Dam, he looked exactly like Rob Van Dam. It was hilarious.
He needs to do the arms just one time. So we know. So we know. Just one 5-star frog splash, please.
Yeah. No, give him the Van Terminator from corner. Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
what are we talking about?
We were talking about the Van Terminator is when you go into the corner. The Van Daminator is when he throws you or Bill Alfonso throws the chair.
And he does the sick.
Somehow
sick
you're
kick.
stunned by him throwing a chair.
Yeah, dude.
Give him enough time to kick it in your
Any
face.
person that catches anything has they have a 5-second stun. Yeah.
Oh, and
and
by the way,
window
by the
before
way,
it looks fucking terrible.
if you guys want to know who that is Victor Björk, who's originally from Sweden, and he is in biotech.
Is that Peter Sweden?
No,
yeah,
no.
right.
It's Victor Björk. He's a friend
it's not.
He's a friend of mine and
that
Jules.
Makes sense. He's
Is
in
that guy still
biotech.
on
Yeah,
Twitter,
he's in
Peter
biotech.
Sweden?
Peter Sweden, yeah, he is.
Yes.
Oh my
So,
God, I haven't seen him in years.
Well, he's too busy getting owned every fucking 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to get back.
Yeah, they love him. All the H bomber guy people, they fucking the bread tubers.
Peter Norway, that's the joke.
Peter Norway.
Peter Norway. I fucking hate that Peter Norway guy. That piece of shit. The fucking what's his name? Not Peter Sweden, the Peter Norway guy.
Sean Jen.
Well, speaking.
Yeah, that fucking guy.
That guy's such a fucking douchebag. Man.
Oh God.
Speaking of Norway, we gotta get my friend.
Sorry, we're just talking shit about.
We gotta get my friend Shabana Rehman on the stream later on. But by the way, for those who don't know, I'm drinking raw buffalo milk over here, right out of the here. See,
that's very very Chad behavior right there, man. I thought you were drinking bleach for a second.
Yeah, my God, Lev is literally living an emperor tier life at all times. Lev, what do you do all day? Oh, I sneed and I drink fucking buffalo milk.
I sneed buffalo milk all the time.
And lifts.
And speaking of sneed, don't forget to sneed those super chats for Uberboyo and everybody else
like
here.
My recent tweet here that I came up with a day ago, where I said, Moldbug's recent preaching of quietism under the current regime kind of reminds me of Metallica during the mid-90s. Just when metalheads needed them the most, they came out with Load. Does that mean that Nick Land is our Pantera now?
Oh man. Well, I
don't know. Everyone's reading Xenosystems now, so who knows?
Oh yeah, it came out. I have the PDF right here.
All right, I want to get back to Uberboyo right now. So Uberboyo, first off, what did you think of the conversation with Travis?
All right. Well, there was a couple of little different threads that were even open that I'd love to close. One of them, for example, was the power of the transsexuals, which is obviously a very pressing question that we all must ask.
Yeah, very important.
Yes.
And a sort of an addition to that, a perspective that I'd like to add to that as well is that there's again, like, it sounds like I'm bagging on Christianity a bit too much, but you could look at many of the kind of Christians, and you would look at maybe the extremism of certain Christians that were, they're whipping themselves and ripping off the skin off their back.
Yeah.
And you're kind of thinking to yourself, fuck, that's a crazy ideology. But ultimately, it was like quite a normal ideology, very, very stable and very, very healthy for civilization. And the elites were the people who were running it. Like, the German people who conquered Europe after Rome, they all embraced Christianity largely. And no matter how many you might have some like weird niche movements and all that, it was sort of downstream from their perspective, their way of seeing the world, the Catholic Habsburgs and all this. Now, what I think you see with the transsexual movement is the same thing. It's a niche downstream example of who you should really be looking at, which is the question of maybe you could even call it the transhumanist movement, or maybe the hyper individualist movement, as you guys keep bringing up. And I'd say, like, the people.
movement.
Maybe, yeah, genuinely, maybe the Luciferian movement. You know, like Nietzsche himself called himself the Antichrist several times, and he wrote a fucking book about it. And you know, there's a lot of those people who were in the quote unquote elite. Like, it's a pretty egregious word to use, but you could say the what we would understand as the royal class or the aristocratic class or the organizing class. And I'm sure a huge amount of them would have seen themselves as anti-Christian and all of that stuff. But maybe we can brush that aside, because it does kind of complicate the question a little bit, and just understand it in the sense of, like, they see themselves as, they're ideologically aligned with the ideas, and they see themselves as the good guys is the most important thing. They see themselves as the good guys who are going for individualism and an individualist society. And the sort of ultimate expression of individualism is the ability for our mind's ability to conceptualize an identity to overcome every single restriction, biological, social, collective, cultural, tribal, all that type of stuff. And we get into this position where we can fundamentally define what we are through the power of our own thoughts. And that's sort of the transhumanist idea at its foundation. And when you look at the people, like I'm bringing this up because Gio said that this logo guy brought up that idea that the modern quote unquote elites are Nietzschean in this type of sense. Like, he might actually be correct in that you would look at the people who are quote unquote winning and doing well right now, and maybe that's precisely what they are. Like, they are people who are adamant radical individualists, transnational, what Alex Jones might call the globalists, and they don't, you know, they organize their finances so that they don't have to worry about money problems and being trapped with, you know, nation states. They have the Cayman Islands to back them up there, and they have access to the most advanced technology in the world. Many of them are tinkering with life extension stuff. You have people like, I think Jeff Bezos went to fucking space today. Like, you know,
he did.
Dude, it was so good. He was there for 10 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is the type of thing, like,
stupid fucking thing. Oh my god.
These guys, they're beginning to flex their or trying to creep their fingers out into private individual victories. Like, they're trying to become Iron Man, you know. And it's not that romantic, but it is in a way. Like, if you look at it, it is the sort of myth of our age. Like, these guys are trying to do it themselves without the help of the nations. And you could even see the redundancy of the people and the lower classes and the nations. They see them as not that useful anymore because of things like automation. Like, everybody will be replaced by robots eventually, and you'll have a sort of underclass who will do much of the kind of service and management, and then you'll have an upper class who will be like a new aristocracy who will execute their will to power and become a complex array of very interesting individuals. And there might be a couple of transsexuals in there, and that will be totally socially permissible. And there might be some space-aged fucking crazy bastards, and maybe a couple of bodybuilders and all these type of things. But it will be a collage of individuals the way they see it, and that genuinely might be the elite ideology as we understand it, if we're going to steel man this thing and assume that this is what these people are trying to do. Now, this doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean that they're going to succeed, doesn't even mean that it's a good thing. It might even cause the decay of society and all this type of stuff. But I think it's useful to imagine that at the very highest level, there are people like that up there that are thinking that way. And as I said, they're seeing themselves as the good guys. And it's more probably a force of incompetence that's making things come out so bad down here on the ground.
Most conspiratorial people for the like, if you want to go full Bill Cooper, you know, behold a pale horse people, right?
Oh, you got to talk loudly. You are very, very
sorry
quiet right now.
I was away from my mic. If you want to talk about, like, this is I assume that the actual elite, not just like the rich people that we see,
even louder if possible.
The actual elite, I see these people more as like that is what they're doing. Like, they're attempting to unironically leave humanity behind. They don't want to be one of these. A lot of it is sort of like a Gnostic, like, hatred of material world and the self, and like and like
their own bodies.
Yeah, like, oh, I'm limited, therefore I'm living in hell, right? Which is just super psychotic. But I don't assume that they're doing it for anybody else. I assume always that they're doing it for themselves. And in many ways, yes, they are extremely Nietzschean. They are using their power to gain more. They're using what they have to not degenerate, to not, well, as from what we can see. But at the same time, I think there's a transcendent idea to what will really is. And it's one thing to be almost like a slave to your own ego's desires and wills, right? And call that being will to power. and it's another thing entirely to attempt to do the will of something higher than yourself, and using that as the impetus, the fuel, right? So I think the decadence that we've been talking about, the sort of Nietzschean decadence here, is the big topic, because it's almost like there's nothing left to do. There's nothing left to do except, from their perspective, transgress upon like the sort of the traditional and what's already existed. We've run out of territory, right? As you know, this conversation is very Bappian, but you know, I also wanted to say that I don't think that the Bugman actually has the will. They just have numbers. Like, they've never had the will to power. They just have the advantage of numbers. Whereas the reason that often the Bugman loses is because even though they outnumber their enemy, they don't have that same fight, that thumos. They don't have it. They don't want it as much. They're not. But dude, there's a reason that the Romans, their founding myth is, dude, we were literally raised by fucking wolves. Like, that is next level shit. These guys are not fucking playing it. They know what they are. You know what I mean? We were raised by the goddamn wolves. It's time. So they're not going to play games that pretend like they aren't what they are. Teeth, they haven't been defanged.
But then there's another question that I have regarding the fanging, where if we take a look at a lot of these ancient cultures, the archaic Greeks, I always mention them regarding the comparison of their artwork, where the people were more puppet-like, controlled by the will of the gods, as opposed to us that see ourselves as being these individuals. The question for me is always, if there is like a certain trajectory that the planet's spinning, symbolized by this massager over here, if there is any trajectory...
Oh, it's a massager, is it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering what the fuck that was.
Well, since you were mentioning the Christians whipping themselves, it got me the bright idea to utilize this thing again. You know, this is the modern equivalent of the Christians whipping themselves. But anyway,
that is the ultimate Antichrist parody of a Christian whip. It's like a massage
That's
ball.
like the pantomime version of flogging.
My unworked neo aristocrat muscles need to get a spanking from this pleasure ball. Yes.
Need to be so delicately massaged.
Les, sorry, come on, Les.
Let me
Les,
spanking
sorry,
that pussy with that.
okay.
Sorry, I'm reeling from the Fed Post conversation we were
Oh,
talking
that was
about.
amazing.
That was
Yeah,
hilarious.
the Uncle Junior sushi thing. Okay. So, okay. So anyway.
Uncle June, I thought you stick to the bucket.
Anyway,
now.
think of how many sperm have to, you know, go through the process.
Oh, right.
You don't know what I'm about to say, so shut up and let me talk, and you'll understand what I mean. Here we go. So, okay, think of how many sperm it takes to, you know, go through the whole process. Like, it's like billions of sperm, right? But only one ends up making it into the egg. So it could be a similar thing with humanity when it comes to, like, the Earth right now, maybe like the balls. And all the humans are like the sperm. And eventually what we may be coming to is this condition where having all of this information available to us, like I always say, like if you teleport somebody from the past to the present, you know, they'd be shocked at the amount of information that they can access now, and at the same time I don't know if they'd be surprised or not, but they would definitely acknowledge that a lot of people are using this amazing technology just for, you know, playing Candy Crush or, you know, going on TikTok or whatever. So to me, that leaves a great opportunity that we've never ever had before of being able to connect a lot of the dots as to what exactly is going on, and for a few people to be able to utilize this opportunity to grow into something bigger than whatever could have happened before. And the reason why I mentioned the archaic Greeks is I still think that this is just a guess, like I don't know if they were actually like that, according to, let's say, Julian Jayne, who wrote the book about the bicameral mind during the Bronze Age, that people were disconnected, according to him, where they assumed that the voices that they heard, that was just like the voices of the gods ordering them to do certain things, where they were mere puppets. And I'm always fascinated by looking at more like primitive tribal societies, where they do seem to be in more of a dream state in the way that they relate to each other, the way that they relate to their world. And you could say, well, they're healthier. I mean, then again, some of them are not as healthy, but they are, like, you know, closer to the land and all that stuff, you know, not as disconnected as we are. But how much of it is them and how much of it is just this instinct that they don't really have that much of a power over? They're just kind of going with the flow. You know what I mean? So,
Well-
so like my ultimate point here is maybe there is something to this individuation that, if used in a certain way, would be able to get us to a higher level than what people were capable of before, where they were more of in like this hive mind. I don't know.
It's great. It's a great point. It's a very interesting question. And a kind of corollary or maybe a balancer to it is that every, like, you know, the stuff that I would talk about, the psychoanalysis, Jung, Nietzsche himself, the shocking statements that they are making at the root of most of their philosophies is that we are fundamentally driven by the gods still. There is almost like no evidence for a serious free will in the way that we understand it. It's very, very shocking. Like we are rationalizing animals. And what I mean by rationalizing is that we don't think rationally per se. We come up with excuses to explain to ourselves why we do things. In fact, with these left brain, right brain studies, they cut fucking brains in half and they show the left brain stuff, and the left brain invents stories to make it coherent so it doesn't have a schizophrenic break about the fact that there's another half of it that's making operant choices that it's unconscious of. Like, that stuff is still there. And so the whole idea of like, all right, well, were the people in the past making unconscious choices? Man, we make unconscious choices as well. Like this whole idea about the quote unquote left making, you know, going for this woke movement and being animated and driven towards these type of ideologies. This is built on the physiological simmer of like what Nietzsche would call the resentment within them, and the sort of lack of thumos within the lack of a god within the kind of conservative movement, if you will, means the sort of same thing. And the desire for these creative elites, if you will, to achieve transcendence and become the sperm that injects out of the balls of the earth and the sack earth. These are, again, they sort of driven by an instinct. They have that will to power and they want to express it in some type of way. And they're individualists for whatever reason that means in these type of regards. And we like, I think the most interesting way to, well, one interesting way to look at the world is to see it as a like conglomerate of forces all operating together in a very kind of crazy way, pushing alongside each other to try to get someplace. And if you start to look at it this way, our reason begins to just de-pedestalize a huge amount and not really have as much power as we thought it was at all. This is why I think it's such a parody, the way we sit around and we talk about this type of stuff, because it's not really going to do anything like long term. Like, you know,
but
Jeff Bezos is...
Mm-hmm.
Go on, sir.
But is everybody, you think, equally unconscious, or would you give credence to there being some people who have a little bit more consciousness than others? If you have a monk, for example, who goes out and meditates every single day or whatever, would you say that they're the same as somebody who's just constantly on their phone or looking at TikTok or whatever? Or would you say there is a difference?
Let's ask a slightly different question, because the question is more about like who's going to be the sperm that injects out of the ball sack earth.
Sure.
And who's going to win is the real question. And so Nietzsche like, actually, they'll pivot into the Nazis here. So Nietzsche's admiration for the Jews is that he would say that these people, like, you know, they came out of Judea and they were thrown into Europe and they were sidelined in the ghettos and ostracized because, you know, they had awkward ways of doing things, let's put it that way, and they got ostracized, and this causes what we could understand as an evolutionary pressure to be put upon them. Now, most people in civilization actually get less evolutionary pressure, but the Jews of all people got more because they were outsiders, because of these things, and so they get more and more pressure put upon them, and it builds up inside of them, like, you know, the pain sharpens them, and then by the time the 19th, 20th century rolls around, these people are actually like highly animated. They have quite a significant amount of thumos, and all things considered, it's actually quite a shock. It's like, holy fuck, at this end of this historical process, you're looking at, like, Nietzsche noticed like the Germans and the conservatives, and he's like, these guys don't have the fucking will inside of them. Maybe the Germans is a different question, but the conservatives didn't have the will inside of them. He actively said this, like, you know, the conservatives just, they don't have it anymore. But you look at someone like, you know, the Jews, and obviously it's more complicated than just, you know, the Jews as one block or something like this, but they have this force, they have that nexus of force, and they might not be even aware of what they are. They might not know what they are. The Zionists might not know what they are. The George Soros.
I'm aware.
Well, all right. Well, this is the thing, is like, you might not even be, you might think you know something, but you might not know as much as you think you know, because they might have the will to, you know, get into management positions, and they might be designed for civilization that will take them forward and make them successful in the future. Nietzsche says specifically in Beyond Good and Evil, not that the Jews want to, but if they are patient, which is their trait, they may indeed pluck rulership over Europe out of the hands of like everything and be part of the ruling race of the future, because they're just positioned in this type of way. Like all the forces are pushing.
But
it's the revolutionary spirit, you could say.
Well, no, Gio, just to push back a little bit on the revolutionary spirit part of it. If a gap, no, I always push back on it because I am very much against anti-Semitism and all that. Not just because I'm a Jew, but in general. The reason being that I think that this is completely wrong when it comes to saying if there were, hold on, Gio, if there were, let's say, if there were no Jews, would A, B, and C happen? I believe absolutely, because gaps of power, once they exist, ends up getting filled by whoever. So if there's a modern condition that would require there to be certain positions, whether it's, whatever you want to say, like media, Hollywood, banking, whatever, you're always going to find people, and you still find people, regardless of whether they're Jews or not, who would occupy those positions and be able to exert, like as much as we could say, well, the Jews are good at yada, 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 there's still people who are not Jews who are just as good, and they'd be able to fill those positions as well. So this whole idea is that if only this person did not, this group of people did not, occupy the same planet, be a different world, I think it's absolute bollocks. But to what Uberboyo was talking about, I would say that in general, any pressure that is exerted upon people, as long, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger at the end of the day, that old chestnut.
That's actually what I mean. That's sort of what Nietzsche was saying. It's such an astute observation because in some sense, like the Jews are very controversial people, to say the least. And this is specifically when you're looking at like this idea of like, how can these people win? Or how do you win the ball sack question? Like, that's really the big question. And the Jews might not know they might not know what they are, but their instincts are aligned in a very strong way. Like they know instinctively that they should work together. They know they should aim for positions that they've been trained to aim for through the difficulty and challenges of the past and all this type of stuff. And all of this stuff is totally normal and totally healthy. It's actually a signal of health where this type of stuff works together. And they put themselves in a good position because of that. Nietzsche believed that they would come out. There's a possibility that they could be a significant part of whatever comes out on top. Like, and he was right. They're a significant part of the story now. They're doing very well in the world at the moment.
Exactly.
And like not even.
What do you think of
hold on. Before the Prudentialist, I just want to be clear on one aspect that Uberboyo talked about when it comes to working together. Like I always say, this is going to be the second mini rant of Lev Polyakov. When it comes to the whole working together thing, if there were a bunch of people who were Jewish who were working together on some leftist magazine, I would never want to be a part of it, nor would they want me to be a part of it. So I would rather be a part of something, very different, regardless of whether there are Jews or non-Jews. I mean, look at the stream. Who's a Jew
Fair
right
enough.
now with me? You know what I mean? So in that sense, I think you're right in terms of when there's more like
speaking
religious,
when there's
more religious Jews who are, by the way, very conservative. But when there are like more religious Jews out there, they're going to stick together. But when you have the diaspora, when you have, for example, I think that it is the case that in general, like throughout history, Jews have been some of the most, let's say, integrative peoples of all time, where they integrated themselves with Christian society as well. And unlike in Spain, where even if you did convert, you were still considered to be a Jew, in other parts of Europe, I do believe, like when you converted to Christianity, that's it, you're Christian. They didn't do any DNA tests back then, they didn't have any, this was it. From the rest of time, you would be considered to be a European Christian, and there wouldn't be any difference. So in that sense, like as far as the amount of integration that happened, I would not say that when the integration is not there aren't like group dynamics. Of course there are, like among the religious parts, but otherwise I don't see that as much as at all, except for like the leftists, but the leftists tend to find each other regardless.
Yes, and I understand that, and yeah, like you did hear me say the caveat that like let's not go broad stroke and say that there's just a big block of people that you often hear, but I do think they like most certainly there is teamwork that goes on among people. Just like when I meet Irish people, like I will sort of be like, all right, lads, how are you? And there's a sort of inside understanding of each other, even if we're like liberal Irish people who aren't that nationalist anymore and all these types of things. And more than the main point I'm trying to make is that there's strong instincts inside those people because of a long period of time of being pushed, ostracized, and this creates, for good or for bad, a set of instincts that actually carries them through this sort of situation. And Nietzsche's big question is about like, all right, I'm not sure he's saying it's about consciousness. I'm not sure he's saying it's about, oh, we're all going to figure out what's happening. He's sort of saying that there will be sets of people. He's thought the Germans and the Jews were quite significant ones that will be full of thumos and will be pushing through this kind of corridor. And they'll, like, whoever has the strongest instincts will be the one who makes it. And like whoever understands, that's almost after the fact. Like we'll look back at this period and be like, oh, that's what was going on. And it'll be like the winners looking back and sort of saying, oh, well, we figured it out. We got the sus. And that's the kind of big question. And so obviously the thumos question is a very, very serious one in that, like, all right, if you don't have it, you better start creating it soon, or you're in a very, very bad position. Because if you're just going to sit around being conscious and trying to know, it's almost like you'll get left behind in the game, because you should be almost like your instinct should be almost pulling you through.
It's like you're studying how to play a game versus just
Boom.
playing it.
Boom.
I want to make sure we get to the Prudentialist, but also real quick about the Kabbalistic tree of life. The two top ones, except for crown, kind of like the crown chakra. The two top ones is wisdom and understanding. So
what is it, Gevara and
well, no, those are the two columns. So wisdom would be chokmah, and understanding would be bina, and crown would be keter. So the idea there is that, like all the mystery schools have these different trees of life, different ways of organizing, the blueprint of consciousness itself. I think that there is something to that, like the ascension of consciousness. But anyway, I'm going to get to that a little bit later. I know
I've actually thought that Kabbalah is extremely interesting for a very long time. But I will say, just briefly, I do agree with Uberboyo completely about the idea. Like there's only one other group on Earth in the last, since 1920 that's had this thumos that the early Zionists had, and that was the Nazis. Like that's it. That's it. Because the early Zionists were not playing games, dude. They had an objective, and that was what they were going to do. And that's not like beyond all of.
But they did have
stuff.
The backing of the British and.
By the way, I still have to.
That helped.
Remus,
but they got that stuff due to their own skill and ability to network, and like they did it. You understand? It wasn't like it was just given. They had to it's not necessarily like a earn, like you did it through wow, look at this merit-based society. I mean, they earned it through their understanding of what the fuck is actually going on in the world. Like they're not going to wait to go through all the bureaucratic methods, because they know what happens. Like nobody needed to explain.
But still, Remus, there is a very important point that I should make, though. And by the way, I am listening to that podcast.
Can we get off this topic?
Hold on,
please?
1 second.
I can start talking about the Nazis next if you want.
Yes, 1 second. No, I would love, and I also got to hear from the Prudentialist, but also just 1 second, Remus. I'm listening to that podcast that you recommended right now. I still have to listen a lot more.
Great
but
quote by
Gio,
Hatcher
you got to let
here.
me finish.
Lev, you often do a lot. Sorry, I'll read it later, but Lev,
later.
Go ahead.
Okay, here we go. So I'm listening to the podcast right now. The one thing that I would say is that as much of a realist as you can be when it comes to, okay, this is the problem, what's going to be, how are we going to solve this? The one thing that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but when the early Zionists were, let's say, setting various booby traps and explosives for the British, they did, from what I understand, warn them ahead of time, and also they made sure that wherever they would put those bombs, it would not be places where, like, civilians and children
See,
would...
when they do terrorism...
Lev, they killed more British civilians than any other people in history.
Yeah.
I love it. Lev, I'm on board. Who are these guys? I'm on board.
I love how, like, the IRA sympathizer and, like, the Likud, like, Jewish terrorists, they're both like, no, I killed more British people. No, I killed more Anglos.
Lev, let's team up on these guys.
All
There's
right.
this great...
what was it? The London...
Well, current Ireland's
all right,
making me
Remus.
Consider my hatred of
Okay,
Anglos.
maybe I didn't get up to that part of the podcast yet, but how do you know?
Trying to save the
How do you know that statistic? The one that you mentioned.
Because they exploded a fucking hotel.
Yeah.
Was there
in British mandated Palestine when Britain was still the controllers of what is
was
now
there
Israel.
any warning from them before they bombed that hotel?
It doesn't matter. Oh my god.
No, wait.
Yes.
They would never do that because it would be ineffective.
The IRA used to do that. The IRA used to warn people,
did,
and then they'd send them to the other side of the street, and then they'd probably bomb the other side of the street.
No, but the
pretty
IRA
brutal
was
stuff.
different because they were different because they kind of were expelling like a foreign invader, but like I
That
don't
was
know.
the-
It's hard
that
to
was the
say. It's
idea.
hard to
They were
even say
trying to
that.
They were trying to get them out with their terror.
Yeah,
That was the point of the
the
terrorism,
Israelis were
was to-
different.
was
Like
to get the
they,
British out of Palestine, and they're never going to achieve that if people aren't afraid of them. So the entire point was to show literally everyone on Earth, including the biggest empire in the world at the time, yo, we are not afraid of you. We will fight you. We will fight forever. So you might as well just leave. And it worked. It worked.
yeah, the British they stayed
I'm-
longer.
And also, I'm not condemning any of this shit. I completely understand why these things happened. It's just that they did, right? It's that we can't pretend that they didn't. They did, right?
What is
Yeah.
what is the name of the hotel? I'm gonna look that up, and later on, I'm gonna look at it in private, and then I'm gonna get back to
It
you
was
about
all
that.
it was all a MI6 Royal Crown psyop.
Yeah,
Lev,
that's what it's gonna be at
against
the,
the
end of
Jewish people.
Yeah.
No,
There's
no.
this great-
I generally want to know so I could look it up later.
I'm just sinking the credibility of all my my good lads.
Fuck
Anyways,
credibility. Just let me know what the hotel is. That's all I'm asking. I want to
anyways,
find out.
Lev, there's this great comment, Lev. You
It's
often
the King David hotel bombing.
All right, thank you. See, finally we have an answer.
by
So
Wyram Hatcher.
I saw
Lev,
that.
you-
Yes.
Join the
Disguised
IRA,
as Arab workmen and as hotel waiters, members of the Irgun planted a bomb in the basement of the main. I'm not going to continue, but the Irgun, you should look them up. They're
Mhm.
interesting.
Oh,
All right,
they,
I'm gonna be. We're
yeah,
gonna go off
they-
this subject right now, but I am gonna take a look at
you
all of
often
this.
do a line, Lev. You often
Yeah.
do a line with a tiny hat cohort. The tiny hat cohort of yours, your spirit, if you like, when you push against Christianity/traditionalism or present libertarianism as the solvent to national economics, and you do this consistently on BTR. And then he mentions the recent Herzatz. And keep in mind, Herzat's the most liberal. It's like the equivalent of the New York Times in Israel.
I mean,
There's-
Haaretz, the HAA.
Haaretz, yeah.
Haaretz, yeah.
They had this article recently where they say it's like perfectly fine if like the Israelis they manage to keep their ethnic and religious majority, even if it means like pushing out the Palestinians.
Yeah, I'm not trying
And-
to
but
have
it's-
the
Oh,
Israel
okay. By the way,
conversation.
the
That's not point
Irgun
of this.
started. Okay, the Irgun stated subsequently that warnings were delivered by telephone. Thurston Clark states that the first warning was delivered by a 16-year-old recruit to the hotel switchboard 15 minutes before the explosion. And okay, just because I
wow,
want to.
man.
Hold
Hey,
on, hold on.
15 minutes to get all those people out of that fucking building. Good
Listen,
luck.
15 minutes. You better be out. We warned you.
we
It's-
warned you.
Okay,
Yeah,
this is
come
what
on, man.
Thurston. Okay,
I shouldn't do
hold
the
on,
voice.
hold
That's
on, hold on,
terrible.
hold
I
on,
shouldn't
hold on.
fucking do it.
No, because it's easy to pick on them. I understand. So, because again, both the far right and the far left, they have no problem picking on the Jews any time of the day. It's just the way it is, and that's the pressure, Uberboyo, that I think we were bringing up earlier. It's something. It's something that inherently exists, I think, inside of a lot of people, where they put a
Dear
certain
Lord Rothschild.
they put a certain exception on the Jews when it comes to, let's say, one group of people who has done terrible things, way more terrible than other people. They would kind of put them below. They say, well, yeah, they did that, but look at all these horrible things that Israel did. And I really do think that part of it is, it's kind of just like astrology, just like a lot of these things that are inside of this universe right now, just like the way that it functions. It is a part of it. It is a part of the pressure from which a certain amount of growth happens. To the thing that was said
Well,
earlier
you
by
can't moralize it. I mean,
two certain
you know.
things that were talked about by Wormhatcher. I just want to comment on those. I am one of the few people in New York City who actually goes out of his way to talk about how important traditionalism is. You guys are stewing in the fucking soup for years, and you think that somebody who pushes back a little bit against your traditionalism is all of a sudden
that's not what it's.
is all of a
it's not
sudden,
what it's about,
you know,
Lev. No.
preaching
not-
from the enemy's choir here. Where my
Gentlemen,
idea is trying to do a balance between these two things. Anyway, sorry
Gentlemen,
about that. Uberboyo.
I'm gonna have to bounce soon enough. So, is there any last wrap-ups we could?
Yes, absolutely. So Uberboyo, first of all, I really
Sorry
appreciate.
for wasting Uberboy. I'm very sorry for wasting your time on this nonsense. But
No,
let's.
No, anytime it gets brought up, I must address it. That's the rule. Just so you
Well-
guys know, you can never have it easy when it comes to talking about these kind of things with me. But anyway, I want to get to Uberboyo. I want to propose something to you, and I'm curious what you think of this. So, in relation to what we were talking about before with this growth of the ego, and you're saying like some people would be more of the sperm and other people would be less of it. Well, the sperm that actually gets to the egg, right? So I have a crazy idea that I wanted to run by you before you go. What if, and again, just don't take this seriously, just like as a thought experiment, all right? What if a lot of the animals that we see around us, a lot of the chimpanzees, gorillas, even other like dogs, cats, all the animals with a backbone, imagine for a second that they were once people. And they were people who got it too easy, who didn't have to, let's say, work their mind as much in order to structure a certain kind of society. For those people, then, I wonder if it may have been possible that eventually they would have deteriorated so much mentally where they weren't challenged, there was not enough pressure put on them, that the only ones who survived were the ones who had to just go by Mother Nature, where now the instincts kick in and the only thing that's left for them to do, for the ones who survive, is to adapt to whatever constraining environment would allow them to survive. So the fish are perfect for the water, and the cats are perfect for the savannah and whatever.
Oh my God, I'm going to talk about the Jews again. Fuck, I guess they're a great example of this. But there is a bird that they found in some island in the Pacific. They when the colonialists were going down there, and the bird had no natural predators, so it lost its wings and it just sat around like a pancake. And then they brought the cat on their boat or something like this, and the cat just ate all the birds on the whole fucking thing. It just walked up to them, ate them alive, didn't even understand predators. Lack of environmental stress causes degradation. Just like if you go to the gym and you put a stimulus upon yourself. Well, actually, no, if you're in the wild, there's a lot of pressure. And then if you build a nice, lovely civilization and go live in that civilization, you turn into a decadent Roman Empire, and you maybe grow overweight or something like this, or you stop, a lot of things go wrong for you in this type of regard. Without the pressure, things can go wrong. And of course, even pressure on your mind, without the challenge and pushing you down and attacking your status, things go wrong. Now, what we look at with this whole idea of the next step, because this is Ubermensch's Nietzsche's sort of idea with the Ubermensch, that we've got humanity now, and evolution is always happening. There is no statesis, there is no freezing. We can't freeze frame and just remain human. We're going to constantly evolve into something, and if there's no environmental stress, this is going to be a downwards going. This is what he's always making this joke about, like, oh, those who are downwards going I hate, those who are upwards going I love. And so if you don't have that type of pressure, you will begin to descend. You'll begin to sink underneath the earth towards the bottom. Now, the upwards going people will be the people who find stress, who actually embrace challenge, embrace struggle, and maybe even they create it themselves. And for example, he would specifically point at the Jews as a people who, now this is quite interesting, who had pressure put on them historically. And in some sense, they're quite interesting in that they still even need pressure. Like it's like they look for a way to be have pressure upon them, because that gives them a way to keep fighting, something to fight for in this type of regard. Like a lot of people I've heard people saying, it's actually a really interesting thought, is that now that they have Israel, a certain section of them has Israel, I wonder, will they lose the will to power because they've sort of got what they were looking for? They've got the berry at the end of the stick or something like that, and they're sort of in trouble. The same happened to the Irish. The Irish got the Irish nation, and we lost the thumos. All of our culture was created in the run up towards the revolution. And the second we got it, it was just sort of it just burnt out really, really quick. These type of things. And then of course, Nietzsche would point at the alternate. And you see this in actually a lot of different places. Moses Hess, who was the guy who came up with Zionism, and Nietzsche himself, both have a dichotomy between what he calls Rome and Jerusalem. And Rome of Jerusalem is the idea of the old European understanding of the world, fighting against or maybe even being in intellectual competition with the worldview of Judaism. And this would be actually understood as coming through Christianity, according to Nietzsche. And this is not targeted specifically at the Jews or anything like this, but specifically in Nietzsche's frame, he's suggesting that the Jerusalem perspective is not actually willing to take on heavy loads of real engaged serious stress, whereas for example the Roman attitude would be about systematized and intentional stress. And what do I mean by that? So for example, you live in the jungle, there's natural stress, you come out of the jungle, you get civilized, and you need more stress, and what do? You introduce a gym, which is a fake jungle, a jungle gym, a fake jungle where you put stress on yourself to make yourself stronger. It's a fake jungle in order to do this, and this is about developing yourself and idealizing yourself through pressure and these type of things. And so what Nietzsche saw was there's going to be and Moses Hess was the same. There was going to be competition between these two ways of seeing the world. And of course, the Jewish spirit is so powerful because they're such an intellectual people that through Christianity and through Judaism and through all the ways that it influences the world, and that has actually got this sort of way of demonizing that precise thing. When you look at Christianity, like, it's not necessarily something that would encourage the type of pressure to be allowed to put on yourself. And the same with modern society, like, it's sort of derivative of that it lacks this. Maybe you could say liberalism lacks this. Whereas the representatives, and I'm not sure if Nietzsche would have agreed with them, but the representatives of the Roman perspective were, for example, Mussolini, and they were, of course, the big bad boy Adolf and all this type of stuff with their eugenic plans. And of course, that was sort of the end of the whole process, but there were the Germans before it. And this was an instinct inside of them where they were looking to say, how do we create a way? How do we actually create a people based on natural biological principles so that we can kind of build them out in this type of regard? And I think when you ask about what has to go through the future, I'm not saying we go back to any of those ideologies, nor do we run around categorizing people Judaic or Jerusalem or something like this, but understand sort of what these people were talking about and what they mean by the idea of needing to embrace stress in some type of way in order to idealize ourselves and put that type of pressure. Basically, we're saying to ourselves, we're out of shape and we do need to start introducing the gym. And it's so interesting. Basically, the big thesis is that you've got a load of ideologies and cope that are just sort of saying, I don't want to do the gym. The gym is evil. No, I don't want to gym. Anything but the gym. Definitely not. Let's not do this type of stuff. And if we're to get serious about making it forward, and might not be everybody, it might just be a small amount of us, we need to dismiss those ideologies and actually just go and do the work that actually counts in order to build ourselves into something stronger and more beautiful. We need to find a way to embrace stress and not rationalize ourselves out of it. So obviously bit broad stroke, and there's more to say on all these type of things, but I think that kind of like paints the picture that I see quite well.
Absolutely, and I think you've been seeing it today on the stream, especially in the last section, how immersed in pressure I get, and this is also kind of a strategy here too, because I know that there's going to be a lot of people coming on the stream that vehemently disagree with me about these things at a very, let's say, fundamental basis. It's something that allows me to test my own ideas and to grow, and I think this is the one thing that I would ask of everybody else here. Try to test yourself. Try to see whether your ideas stand up to any pressure, because the biggest problem would be that I think a lot of people in Uberboyo, you've probably seen it yourself as well, where you have a lot of people in their own echo chambers that think that they know the truth and they relax. They don't grow because they don't test themselves. They look at all these extreme leftists as being like the designated target that they have to, be against, even though it's like Triumph the Insult comic dog called, what's his name? I don't remember that guy. Who was married to Roseanne Barr? Tom Arnold. He called Tom Arnold, he said that to make fun of Tom Arnold would be like pooping on poop. And I'd say the same thing when it comes to a lot of these extreme SJWs, where, I don't know, Gio, like you've mentioned this a couple of times, like when I ask you, like, who is a liberal? And you keep bringing up people who, are the equivalent of Tom Arnold here. So my only point here is that I feel like people have gotten too damn relaxed looking at those people as being the targets to go against and not picking on somebody one's own size, so to speak. And that is the one thing that I wish of everybody. Try as much as you can to pick on somebody your own size for the sake of your own intellectual growth.
Yeah, but that means we have to pick among...
And push back on this real quick.
We would have to pick on ourselves.
I do want to make sure, though. I want to make sure that Uberboyo, that if you have to go right now, I want to make sure to plug your stuff.
Oh, yes. Well, gentlemen, I'm over on YouTube. You can pop in there. For more than anything, like give the lads here like and subscribe if you're coming from Uberboyo. I know I shared it on the community tab. And yeah, if anybody here who does not know me, pop over and give it an old smash like and subscribe. I'll talk about immense amounts of juiciness over there. And yeah, it's just simply Uberboyo. I'm also on Twitter. Yes,
yeah, it's Twitter. Before you go, you keep mentioning the last man this stream. I just recently did a woodcut of a pink Wojak that I think is indicative. It's like this. The pink Wojak really is the scream by Edvard Munch of our generation.
Seethe, man.
So as Edvard, yeah, the scream, the sneeve, what did you say, Remus? The sneeze.
He's the Seethe. He's the living embodiment of Seethe.
Exactly.
The pink Wojak.
But
and that's what
Edvard,
we do. We Seethe.
Edvard Munch did multiple screams. He also did a woodcuts of them. So this is mine. I refined the details. I posted a picture on Twitter, but this is the completed one. I can't wait to print it out.
Oh, it's so
Whoa.
good. It's so good, man.
It looks
I
great,
changed his
man.
eyes from angry to despair. So
Yeah, it looks really good. I like
It
that
actually
touch.
does.
There you
That is great.
yeah, I can't wait to print. They're going to be in hopefully an idea I had where I want to come out with a zine filled with woodcuts. Maybe like once, maybe like 4 or 5 a year of different zines with like etchings and woodcuts. So, and writing, of course. So, I mean, everyone's doing the zine now. I got inspiration from my friend Sonia. Supposedly, she like hand makes all of her zines. But yeah, so I can't wait to print it out. And yeah,
Excellent. Well,
I just want to
Uberboyo,
show Uberboyo. I think it's pretty
Yes.
apt for you know.
thank you so much for coming in, brother. I really appreciate it. And by the way, you are going to be back with us with Jonathan Peugeot coming up pretty soon.
Oh,
Peugeot. So that is going to be, let's see, when?
Pagu.
Thursday, August 26th.
That was like a Louisiana Creole accent, right? Pagu, Ebemon.
I look forward to that one, Gio. That would be a great one because maybe we can actually sit down and talk Nietzsche versus Christianity properly on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Have a banter about that. So that'd be
That'd
a
be
good
a
vibe.
great one.
Absolutely. And maybe later on in the future, we'll be able to bring Owen Cyclops on. He said that he's busy right now with, the baby and all that. I mean, praise the Lord. That's an amazing thing. His wife
God
is
bless
giving
him,
birth.
man.
And
Yeah.
But in general, later on, he will be available. So maybe we can do another Nietzsche one with him later on. We'll see what happens.
I
That'd be
actually
great.
would- I would
I'll
love
just be
to-
the Nietzsche NPC.
Yes.
I would love to talk to him. I was watching the video. Uber, if you gotta go.
Sweet,
it's been
sweet.
a pleasure, brother.
No, it was been great.
Here,
It's
I'll send
lovely to meet you as
Uberboyo
well.
off with this.
Nice.
hear
Is
that?
that- I
Nice.
knew that was a tuning fork.
Yes.
Nice. Like get the
I-
shock tone
Lev
underneath.
just randomly has a tuning
He's
fork.
injecting the power of vibration into the stream, bro. Incredible.
Nice.
I did want to say that in the last video that you put out, when you had Owen on, and you guys were discussing Buddhism, at one point you discussed the Gita, and there was a lot wrong with his conception of it, but he admitted that, which is nice. The idea, I do want to address this on the stream because I want people to understand this. The idea was that Arjuna didn't want to fight because that's my family, bro, and also because he just kind of like didn't want it. He didn't have the will at the time, and the idea of why Krishna tells him that it's important to fight isn't just because like that's what you do, and also, bro, they're gonna reincarnate, so everything's fine. The idea is that the thing that you are fighting is it is antithetical to goodness. It's not just that these people are doing things that are bad. They're literally adharmic, right? They're undharmic. It's an undharmic civilization. It's an adharmic army, and their goals are adharmic. So to fight them is to fight for natural law, right? Is to fight for the God's law
Yeah,
on
that's
earth.
the point.
Yes, and the fact that they reincarnate is just a plus because it means that you aren't utterly obliterating these souls. It means that you are fighting their earthly incarnations to free them so that they can actually, I guess, re-enter the karmic field, right? But it's also one of the most important things about it is that Krishna specifically tells Arjuna that you must not enjoy this. It's not for you to enjoy. You're not going to go in there and start killing your family and loving it. You shouldn't hate them either. You should do this because it is right, not because you dislike them or because you find them repulsive or anything like that, right? So I think that he just mischaracterized, and it's more subtle than what he was saying, right? And but I appreciate it also listening to you guys talk about Jericho and
Oh,
Sodom and
yeah.
Gomorrah and
Yeah.
all that, right? I did
Break
listen
the
to
walls
I listened to two priests talking about this stuff.
So,
And-
you meant like the walls of Jericho? I thought. Oh, sorry.
No, not Chris
Oh, you
Jericho.
meant Chris Jericho.
Y2J.
See,
But
this is why I love the Y2K aesthetic, because of Y2J Chris Jericho used to come out with those like platinum like
The fucking vests.
Oh, the vests were amazing.
Dude, it was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
I will say
amazing.
that Lev, you were pushing back on the idea that God is telling people to slaughter others, right? And I appreciate that because that was a
Why
thing
would
that
God
used to
do
bother me
that?
like crazy, bro. Like my not to name dox, none of you were gonna find me. But my first name is Joshua. So that book is like literally just like, what if we killed everyone, right? That's the whole, like, the book of Joshua is just conquest, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh fuck, it's kind of fucked up, right? When I was younger and in my sort of like, you know, that burgeoning atheist phase where you're like, God's a fucking asshole, like I can't believe he did that. So the idea there, I listened to two priests talk about this and they're Orthodox, is that the people of Jericho were Nephilim. Like they're not human beings.
They were abomination before God.
It's not even that
where
they're
does that say that though?
abomination.
That sounds like cope. I don't know.
No, it's not cope. What it is all of the kings of the time. The reason that
Oh, by the way, microphone, you got to speak a little bit louder.
Okay. The reason that God is instructing okay, so the purpose of the flood was to destroy the influence of Nephilim society.
Yeah.
Right? So when any people, there's antediluvians, right? There's people from before the flood in the world of the Bible, right? And
wait, before you go, Prudentialist.
Prudentialist.
Oh,
Yeah,
Prudentialist,
no.
you gotta go. Oh shit, listen, Prudentialist, you were as patient as a saint today because we hardly heard anything from you, and that is my fault. I should have called on you more, so I want to make sure we get to, before you go, your take on the events today, what was talked about, anything you have to say, please.
Oh, I mean, it's no problem. I mean, I can come on at another time, or we can talk about it through DMs. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. I gotta head out anyways.
All right. Well, is there anything, just like a sentence or anything you want to say to leave the good people watching?
I in terms of like the woke reformation, I think what we're seeing more is just this is the byproduct of the abandonment of Christianity as the central like theology of the West. And I mean, you're seeing pretty much the old religion cannibalized. I mean, you've got self-flagellating people. I'm not even like the transhumanist or transsexual thing. You've got a self-flagellating white people prostrating themselves for privilege. You've got these like baptism sites at the site where George Floyd died.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's not so much that this is a reformation of Christianity. This is we're going to pick up the pieces of the religion we abandoned and we're going to make something of it. Like every state, no matter where, I think has some sort of abiding theology, sort of like the single story state as Moldbug put it in The American Mind. And I mean, that's where we're at right now. And so, and it's been very clear from Nietzsche to Spengler to even BAP nowadays, like the modern thumos is not there on the right. And it's more or less why the right keeps losing. Like Richard Hanea wrote in his essay, like, why is everything so liberal? It's because,
Fucking
you know,
Richard Hanea.
I don't like him, but he's got an occasional good take. He shat on his credibility after he got mad at that Marty guy, made a really good thread that Tucker read. And I mean, that was just cope and seethe from
wow,
Richard.
imagine getting mad at Daryl Cooper.
I know. But like no, but Richard Hanea wrote a couple of months ago, like, why is everything liberal? And the fact is that what we call the left, right, or even like the modern essence of liberals, of hyper individualistic autonomy worshipers, like whatever happens between two consenting adults is okay, like they utilize high time preferences. And we see this even now, like the famous thing that happened last year with Noam Chomsky and Bernie Sanders' former press aide, where he was like, well, don't you care about your grandchildren? And they just like shat on him, saying like, no, our kids are getting killed now in the street. And I mean, that's what it's been for at least the last 100 years.
Yeah, how did they cancel Noam Chomsky? It was
racism.
Oh yeah, okay, wow, that's crazy. Wasn't it that one ghoul? What's her name? I
want to say Simone Sanders.
Oh yeah, that one. But I'm thinking of the Chapo.
Did he have the gall to suggest that maybe you need to do something for your own community?
Pretty much.
Yeah. What a guy.
what a white supremacist. You know,
I
what
can't
a terrible
believe
guy.
it, dude.
He survived Michel Foucault, but he couldn't survive a few fucking Bernie flunkies. My God.
But I mean, that's where we're at, right? Is that we have declined, and I think this has a lot from the conversation we talked about earlier. Is just like modern, like, you know, where Caesar goes to the grave of Alexander and he looks back upon his achievements and like cries because Alexander had already conquered the world at that age. Like that's where we're at. Like look
Yeah.
we are not in any state comparable to the men and women of 100 years ago, I think, in like our political energy. I mean, even post-war, right? Like no one in their right mind today would do a Battle of Athens that happened in 49. Like that would never happen in the West now. I mean, the closest people that have any kind of thumos now is the French. And that says a lot.
The Italians a little
Well,
bit.
the Italians too. The Meds get discounted way too much, but like it's the French and the Italians that have the most political thumos to do anything. And unfortunately, neither of them are nation states that are capable of like, dragging the West out of this.
I mean, look at Britain. My God.
Oh, dude,
they're gonna have Freedom Day soon, by the way.
I don't even want to think about Britain.
I can't
right
even
now.
think about it.
No, I was sent an article today, and I'll link this to you on Twitter, Geo, as well.
Yeah.
Is that there was someone who was posting in like a legal advice thread, and he was like, "Hey, I'm applying for this job at university. I don't have a criminal record, but apparently I have these non-criminal hate incidents on my record, and I'm totally worried that I'm not going to keep my job." And I was just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, like, we're not any better.
That's worse than what we have here with the human rights commissions in Canada. That's like way worse.
Well, I don't know. I mean, here in the United States, we have political prisoners, and I live in an occupied country. So
that's true. Yeah. But I mean, America is going to go that way, I feel. But
America's en route to become the next South Africa. Just give it 5 years.
I think they're honestly very similar. The only difference is the public opinion about it. In the U.S.,
the U.S. they're incredibly like intolerant of
people. You can black bag people anywhere, but the difference is that in the U.S. you don't tell the population that you're doing it.
Like the mask thing. Who's gonna wear a mask after they're like, well, the Delta, and then everyone's like, go fuck yourself. But in Canada,
even that's the thing, right? Is that like in the United States, and lefties and righties, I think, can agree on this. Is that you have 6 media companies that control 90% of the content that gets put out.
Technically 4 or 5.
Technically 4 or 5, right?
Yeah.
But like, I mean, Walter Lippmann talked about this back in the 20s, where it was just like, the manufacturing of consent be done for the good of the people. And then Noam Chomsky's like, no, this is terrible because of the military-industrial complex, anti-communism. But I mean, it is the operating regimen of the regime in the United States. Is that you got to worry about the Delta variant. You got to make sure that people get vaccinated. You got to still be socially distant even after you've taken care of yourself.
Yeah.
And even the Delta variant itself and its name is a form of that manufactured consent.
Yeah.
Because what was the first thing when they started calling it that? The Economist magazine put out an article saying that using Greek letters to denote, variants, it's meant to provide, and this was the official narrative, is it's meant to provide more credibility than it is to use a regional name, despite the fact that for every other disease in the world,
from India,
comes from regional aspects of the name. But because we can't give the guy who said China virus any sort of credibility, this is where we're at. And
they can't even prove, like, every single one. It seems that apart from like bullshit examples from third world countries where everyone's like half sick and dying anyways, they're like, they can't basically prove that it's any worse in terms of outcome. It's all bullshit. You can't even. Well, I mean, if I'm gonna talk about, I got a fucking YouTube channel.
Yes, Gio.
Well,
please be kind. Please be kind.
Yeah, let's not. We need people to keep seating.
And by the way, Prudentialist, before you go, I'm gonna gong you out. So first I use a tuning fork. Now I have this. So here we go.
I'm looking forward to it.
But
I got a few more
minutes. Give us
okay, cool.
Oh, sorry, Prudentialist.
You're good.
Let's have a stream where it's just you and someone else, and we have to do that.
Well, I mean, no worries. Besides, I'm glad to be back after surgery to be on. So it's been a lot of fun.
How are you doing with recovery?
Oh, great. My abs look like shit, and I have this giant J-shaped scar along my abdomen. It looks like someone gutted me, but other than that, I'm fine.
That's pretty hardcore, though.
I know. I mean, I'm incredibly blessed to get a kidney. I'm very lucky. But no, like the weird thing about it though is that I get it. I'm immunosuppressed, but like every doctor and their mother has been pressuring me to get like the shot, so to speak.
The Fauci ouch.
Yeah, the Fauci ouch. I hate that so fucking much. That is the most bugman term.
It is the most cringe shit.
By the way, do you have since you have a new kidney now, like a different person's kidney? Do you have different dreams now? Like, does the kidney in any way impact your soul?
Do you like different music now?
Okay, so let's just talk about it because it's actually kind of cool while also morbid. So I didn't get like an adult one. I got a pediatric one because I'm as skinny as a beanpole, so I qualified for that. So whoever's this was either a toddler or an incredibly small child. So Not really. I mean, the only
Are
thing
you,
that is
are you
really
watching reruns of
Peppa
Rugrats,
Pig? No.
Yeah, Peppa Pig.
Peppa Pig.
Steven
I
was
saw that
gonna say
article.
Barney,
I
but-
saw the article where they're like, yeah, all these American kids are adopting an English accent, and I was like, where?
Hello, governor. Hello,
That's cool.
I
governor.
thought they were learning Korean now because of K-pop.
No,
I
they
thought that was
don't.
a thing.
I thought that was
Listen,
Zoomers.
no, weebs
that's
didn't learn
Zoomers, yeah.
Japanese either. Okay, man. They
Weebs
don't-
didn't learn Japanese, that's
They-
true.
They did it. They just.
That's
like,
where the whole subs versus dubs debate came from.
It's like the difference between
Which
weebs-
spawned the greatest thread in Twitter history, by the way.
weebs-
by Wyatt. Yeah.
No, weebs versus otaku. That's the real.
Ah.
That's
I wonder,
the
can we get
real-
Wyatt
Oh,
on the stream?
Wyatt has a Substack now. I don't know if you knew that.
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah, he's got a Substack.
Oh, I have to.
Wait,
We gotta get
which-
Wyatt on the podcast.
Wait, which Wyatt are we talking about? A Wyatt
A
man?
Wyatt man. No, not A Wyatt man.
Wyatt.
No.
No,
E
no, no.
Wyatt.
The Wyatt.
Imagine-
the
imagine
thread,
his
thread master
Substack.
Wyatt.
Yeah, his old. We talked about it on the time, Lev. His old handle was Locksneed Fartin, but now it's what's his handle now?
Oh,
Remus?
let me tell
He
you.
always has
Yeah.
good ones. They're always really good puns.
Yeah,
Mm.
Locksneed Fartin was.
Oh, and
pretty
Godward
great.
Podcast asks, does it feel like you're peeing out someone else's urine?
No, but I went from being an old man to an old man. So like prior to like when I was on dialysis, like I'd pee like once a day and that was it. And now I'm peeing like all the time. So I get up in the middle of the night all the bloody time to go.
Oh man.
It's like that.
So-
It's like that commercial. Like I have a going problem, but I
Different
may have a
forms of
growing
old man.
problem.
Okay, so his handle now, Geo, is Tummy Muncher.
Yeah, that's cool. Tell me one
Nice. Do you so your problem though, you had a video about it.
Yeah.
You were fishing. So it's not like it's technically not a hereditary congenital thing.
No.
So you have like your kidneys good for life pretty much.
Well, I mean, they only last you about 15 years, right? Because
What?
yeah, they don't last forever, man. Because
Jeez.
well, the anti-rejection medication that they put you on so the thing works will eventually kill its functionality. So it gives you about a 15, 20 year lifespan. But because mine was a baby's, it'll grow into a full size one about 6 months to a year. So hopefully it'll last longer than the average,
Then you have to get
cadaver.
it, or maybe in the future they'll have some other better drug.
So they're working on that. There's a mechanical one that doesn't require immunosuppressants, and that's what we're hoping
Yeah.
for. But
See,
like
you're
every
gonna embrace transhumanism. Hang out
I know,
with
I-
your body.
They could grow one like they do with livers.
well, I wish it were that easy.
Yeah,
But
I
you know, given how politicized the FDA is nowadays, who knows?
You never know.
But every doctor and their mother keeps telling me to get the shot. So who knows?
But
what's
that's
gonna happen.
that's actually an interesting thing here. So you may be on the receiving end of a cyborgian transformation to a certain extent, but contrast that to, let's say, the more popular view of like, well, things were, people were pure, they were more virile, like without all this scientific medical advancement. Like, where would you put your thoughts on that? I guess that would be kind of like my
but
my
like
last question.
there's a lot of data to talk about that, right? Like about the rise of autoimmune diseases in the West
Yeah.
in comparison to
Yeah.
like developing countries. Like I mean, there's a lot you can argue is that we've to an extent like dominated our space and have sanitized our space so much that like autoimmune diseases are far more prevalent. Allergies to the most basic
Yeah.
foods like nuts and fish are all over the place. We have essentially done everything that we can to weed out, the natural part, like what Uberboy was saying. Like we have eradicated the jungle. We have we've put up a parking lot over heaven, so to speak, and that parking lot is killing us.
Put up a parking lot.
Yeah, we paved out the jungle and put up a parking lot, and
But the irony here is that I'm sure not you, not me, not anybody would want to have like their parents or anybody who's suffering from any problem.
Oh, of course not.
Like, exposed to the elements.
that's the difference, though, right? Is that we have to now innovate and come up with these ways to deal with these newfound
But
problems.
it is crazy, like how autoimmune disorders, they're sort of like cropping up all the time, and how like they have long-term consequences if they're not like kept in check. Like it is funny, like even just like the rates of everything, like autoimmune disorders, it kind of does imply like there's something deeper going on, and a lot of them are pretty fucking scary because there's not like there's no quote unquote cure. There's just treatments.
absolutely nothing that they do. Like
I mean, pretty much all that they do is put them on steroids and just suppress the immune system.
Yeah, that's it.
endometriosis, that's an autoimmune disease for
Yeah.
women, and that they have nothing. You know what they do?
Even like Crohn's disease.
They fucking induce menopause. That's what they do. to try.
That's
to
all.
treat
That's all that they
endometriosis.
do.
Yeah, and it doesn't do
Yeah.
anything for them. It just it just slightly mitigates, but the symptoms get worse.
That or a
eventually.
hysterectomy.
Yeah, or they take
Yeah,
out
that
your-
doesn't even work
and
half the
best part,
time.
yeah, it doesn't even work. A lot of
Fuck.
the time, it doesn't work. The endometriosis is still there, and now you just can't have children.
Well, I think like Crohn's disease, you just got to change your diet, and they give you like
They give you some supplements and they tell you to change your diet. That's pretty much
Yeah.
it.
that's it.
And
But
most
that's
people with
but that's
Crohn's
almost a
are
uniquely
suffering like
Western
crazy, man.
problem.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah, but there is racially based autoimmune disorders as well.
sickle cell.
Yeah, sickle cell, but I think even Crohn's, they mostly affect like Asians and no, not Asians, blacks and Latinos, or yeah, there's like statistically there's like even certain form of cancers affect certain demographics more. Apparently, Lev, your tribe has a propensity for several different cancers
Yeah.
for some reason.
So it's also a higher Ashkenazi Jews have a higher propensity for schizophrenia, I believe.
Yeah.
Some personality disorders. I can't remember which ones.
As
exactly,
well as
but
some
I know schizo.
congenital diseases as well. I think
Yeah.
Tay-Sachs is one of them.
Tay-Sachs, yeah.
I mean, it is a big problem within the Ashkenazi
Lev, did you get tested
Jew.
for that?
I don't know, but regarding I gotta check. But regarding the Ashkenazi Jew community in general, I think I was first of all, I'm lucky enough that my mom is Jewish, but my dad is like a fully like Ukrainian
your genes
Russian.
are probably diverse
so,
enough.
Yeah, a very diverse portfolio. So I didn't I didn't have any of those problems that end up having like an uncle of mine. He has a situation where he cannot get married to a Jewish woman and have kids with her because it would just be
He's
too
got
much.
the Tay-Sachs?
I don't know what he has, but basically it's like it's too much crossbreeding when it comes to the combination
wow.
of yeah, no, that happens in a lot of these Jewish communities.
Isolated communities.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens. So that's
I hate to say it, a lot of Italian people in the hills of the South.
Bro, it's
Yeah,
anywhere. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
where you are.
Marry,
Everyone does this
what
shit.
Think
did
of, like-
Jebediah Springfield say? We'll marry our cousins.
Yeah.
That's the.
I mean, think of like the stereotypical, inbred redneck. It's
Yeah.
like it's there not just in the America,
everywhere.
but everywhere.
It's everywhere.
This happens in the Arab world too. There's
Yeah.
a lot of
yeah, the
incest.
Pakistani people in Britain,
Yeah.
they're like a lot. They have a big problem with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like
the
60,
thing
it's like 68%.
And see, and by the way,
Insane.
Geo, see, this is kind of the point that I'm getting to here. There was that comment before, I believe, from Wormhatcher, where he was talking about how, well, like, in the beginning, I was raised with these particular beliefs that later on I found out were bullshit. So it's not like you said, Lev, that like everybody is raised to believe in. Of course not. But the point that I'm getting to is my own thoughts on this. I could be wrong, but my own thoughts on this is that the majority of opinions that, let's say, people who got red pilled or whatever you want to call it about certain subjects hold, they would be like the top of the mountain of the that graph, the one that goes from the stupid person to the midwit
Charles
to
Murray.
yes, exactly.
bell curve.
They would be there because basically they rejected a lot of these, very, you could say, idiotically phrased or maybe inherently idiotic ways of looking at the world from their parents or their community. But at the same time, whatever level they got up to, it may not be high enough. It may just be a level that they're comfortable with accepting, like, this is the real truth. Whatever I was taught before is bullshit. I really think that for most of these kind of examples, people don't go the extra mile to actually test out whatever red pill they happen to have been given, so they feel comfy in knowing that, I know the truth and everything before that was a lie. But I really wish that there would be even more strenuousness to ask oneself, like, what would be the alternative of this particular thing that I happen to hate?
By the way, who is Seth Zinach? Seth
Nietzsche, yeah, he's a video game reviewer on YouTube. He's very good. His shit's very funny. His shit's very, very.
Oh, by the way,
can we get?
Yeah.
I wonder if we could.
Oh shit! Oh, by the way, ZZ Man said the magic word. Discuss heroes of might and magic. Oh my god, fuck that.
By the way,
back.
one last thing. The inbreeding thing?
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like a meme. It takes multiple generations for birth defects.
Yeah, just ask
Go
the
up.
Habsburgs.
Yeah,
that's the
takes
point.
the whole thing.
That's the
Like, if
point.
you have a brother and sister or whatever, like, I'm not going to discuss the details, but if you know what I mean, that's just a psyop.
Yeah,
It's
but with
not
a
going to
lot-
be
but-
they're going to come out with web feed.
Sure,
or
but with a
whatever.
lot of these Ashkenazi Jew communities as well as
Yeah,
other
the
communities,
problem is
it's
same
been
with in
going
Italy.
on-
By the way,
Yeah, it's been going
like
on
multiple
for a long time.
generations are pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it's about reaching critical mass. So
Yeah.
you try to discourage the behavior because you don't want it to become something that is excessive, like that everyone is doing. Because
Same
then
in
you
royal
fuck up your-
families.
yeah,
Yeah,
then
that
you fuck up your
was.
society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they had to give new titles after a while because of the Habsburg lip. So they just had to find other nobles. They're like, oh, I guess your line was royal, but it's like, well, we have to do this because, yeah.
By the way, is it true about, I mean, none of us will even know if it's true, but just as a thought about the Habsburgs.
Asians are lactose intolerant?
Oh, I didn't know that.
One thought about the Habsburgs, which
Mongolians.
I don't know what you guys think. This whole idea.
Yeah,
that,
but Mongolians aren't Asians; they're Aryans. They're...
God damn it, let me talk.
Sorry.
This idea about the Habsburgs, basically inserting 1,000 years into history. Have you guys heard of that?
There's the Tartaria people. There's the mud flood people. There's a bunch of alternate history or like history was changed. People that talk about this stuff.
Evola talks about this a lot.
Yeah.
But how would they factor in, let's say, places in Asia, China, Japan, like any of those histories? Would the idea be like their history just lines up to a different timeline than ours? Like the people in the West made it so that it lines up with those extra thousands of years. But, you know, like how would you factor in the Asian societies and other South American or whatever?
I mean, the world was a lot less interconnected. I think if you were to create or draft some sort of history to inject 1,000 years, I mean, I don't think it would be too hard, like referencing, you know, either the mud flood people or Atlantis or Hyperborea. I mean, from there, once you start interacting with people, like you hear their tales, time is definitely taken into consideration. Like, I mean, the Jews have a different kind of calendar, the Chinese have a different kind of calendar, the Japanese do. Like, from that point, I think it would be rather easy to kind of just fudge the numbers. Whether that's intentional or not, but I mean, if you were like a naturalist or a student of natural history or something brought along on these like colonial expeditions, it'd be kind of easy to say like, ooh, that sounds familiar to this event. We can put it along here on the timeline.
That was the problem with a lot of 20th century, 19th, 20th century mysticism when Max Mueller brought the sacred books of the East to the West. There was a lot of like, even before that with Hegel, there was a lot of like misunderstanding between like I think that's what Owen was getting at, is that there isn't like an easy comparison. That's like the problem with a lot of
Perennialists.
Oh, and by the way, I want to apologize to Worm Hatcher. It was not Worm Hatcher's comment; it was Godward Podcast. So sorry about that. Yes, but
can't look at this comment. Cancers thrive in static environments, so using a combination of antibiotics instead of one getting sick was something and help fight. I don't know. Yeah, like I mean, that does make sense, but
there's a whole like alternate history thread about cancer, and it's just like. It's relatively modern. It's not something that's historical.
Yeah.
And that and heart disease, like it's a weird rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, it is a weird rabbit hole. Like, for example, the first instance of a workplace cancer was children that were chimney sweeps getting the black rot.
That's so fucking dark.
Oh, it was terrible.
Holy shit.
It was essentially like a sarcoma because of the carbon. Yeah. No, but it was on their crotch. It was on their genitals.
Oh, what the fuck?
Because they would go into the pipe naked.
Oh.
So the carbon would basically pollute their, lack of hygiene.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the carcinogens present in the smokestacks. Of course, they didn't know about this shit. Speaking of WBS, one is the John David Ebert plus Delicious Tacos episode on whoring. Oh my God! Listen. I won't do that because, number one, we get John David Ebert. We're talking about art after metaphysics. Number two, I deeply feel for John David Ebert, but he's really just got to let this woman go. She's dead. She killed herself. She was a fucking piece of shit. Ruined his life. Not to disparage the dead, but I truly believe John David Ebert. Here's the thing. He encountered a succubus who is a literal cam whore, and I feel deeply for him, but he's got to let her go. He's got to let her go.
Man, you just reminded me of an idea, not reminded me, but you inspired an idea. The suck you bus.
Like bang bus, but only only
for sucking.
Oh my God.
But
I'm
here's
sure
the
a
thing.
porn company is probably
No,
called,
Geo. This is gonna be some Atlantis shit, where you're gonna have like these robot women, but made out of organic materia,
on Twitter.
hooked up,
Well, maybe.
hooked up to the bus, so their suckage would actually take your vril and use it to power the bus. It'll be an alternative form of energy.
It would be like
So
Magic
this is the stand-up bit that Robin Williams did in like 09. The Ford fellatio, it gets you off before it gets you there.
The Magic School Bus.
But that would literally be a
but
it'll be literally not just a succubus in terms of the the play on words. It'll actually be a succubus. Do you
what's
get
that
it?
New Age channel that they were around for a while? They're like the 4, like the 2 numbers and the letters. They have like a bunch of like I have to find them, but they have like a bunch. I've been following them since the early 2000s. A bunch of like alternative medicine stuff. I don't know. Like I think people, they try to do like the whole
This is alternative medicine right here. Oh, you hear that?
It is.
Yeah.
No, but like, the whole like thing about cancer and dietary shit. I think like my controversial take is probably like mainstream. I think cancer has largely to do with genetics, and that I think that cancer specialists, they probably downplay that because they don't want people to think it's fatalistic. But I do think that hereditary issues we'll probably discover that hereditary genes, they probably play more into cancer than like, because it's very hard to do like dietary studies. You know what I mean? Like they just fill with so much bullshit about like how red meat.
I feel like it probably has less to do with diet and more to do with actual environment. Like
yeah,
maybe the
probably.
things
The environment's got to be one of the biggest factors.
Yeah,
along with
maybe the
genetics.
things that we're eating. You know what I mean? Like.
We eat poison in the West, so
that's the point. It's not even like the food per se. It's the environment that the food is in, and yes, as a result, it becomes the food. But it's not really about the food as much as it is about the general way in which things are done in the West. Yeah.
By the way,
there's a lot to be said about like industrial grade farming and its health and environmental impact. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that has something to contribute to it.
It's literally the most satanic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's demonic.
There was this great Fed post. By the way, you asked me I think Prudentialist should go on the Fed post.
I'm actually gonna be on there. I think either this Sunday or next.
Nice.
That's why I asked, because it was like I'm gonna be in unfamiliar territory. And you guys had been on.
By the way, Gio, I posted, and you should definitely retweet this when you have a chance, the section from our Argue My Position with Ayala Girl.
I did retweet
Oh,
that.
you did? Okay, sorry, I didn't see that. But anyway, this is...
that banner image, who is that? All Ayala Girl?
No. Did you see the cameo of somebody?
Oh my god, the cock monk.
The cock monk. Oh,
do you see him there on the corner?
Fucking ancient.
I know.
That is
one of the oldest.
But who's the woman in the front? Is that all Ayala?
That's all Ayala Girl.
She looks different and like. Oh,
and
man.
you're trying to destroy / unlock the OnlyFans logo. Do you see, Gio?
Oh my god.
Powerful.
That's why it's like all glitching out over here.
Images with the weight of history.
Wait, what?
How is that the same person? Her nose looks completely different. Did she get a nose job?
Probably. Like that's
angle and lighting.
Every woman out there,
I don't know.
and man, if you have an aquiline nose, please don't change it.
Yeah.
Aquiline noses
here's
are
the thing, like
noble.
she's pretty and all that, but
she's gorgeous.
But like, yeah, but like I don't know. I like.
It's also very plain.
That's what I mean. I think that's probably the appeal of it. That there's
she looks like an
element.
Yeah, it's like this is like a pure thing. Which is
there's an element to
I'm
being
walking
plain
through my
Jane
valley where I harvest my grain. I look at my wife and realize she's very plain. But that's just perfect for an Amish like me. You know, I detest fancy things like electricity.
Like there's just a level of like plain, but there's also like beauty. It's like the really weird. Like I think that's why
it's like
she's like the girl next door, like the archetype.
Yeah,
of
like there's it's like how roses are very played out. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they're still beautiful. Like, you can't be like, nah, that's ugly. You can just be like, well, I've seen a lot of them. Like that's the worst thing that you can say about a rose. So it's that kind of thing. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
she's a
Maybe that's the attitude I have, because like I have no in-group preference whatsoever.
Really?
Well, okay, so like
you don't like the Anglo? You don't like the Anglo women?
Before anyone gets on my ass about it, like I did not grow up until where I live right now. So for like the last year and a half, everywhere where I have lived, I have been a minority, like in terms of like white people.
Oh
And
yeah.
So like just my entire perception of women has been warped.
Yeah, so you got the Latina queen right there.
Oh God. Well, I mean, you know, you got to make the Castizo future happen somehow.
There you go.
Embrace your inner Spaniard.
Well,
but
I say, I mean, they're pretty much the closest to meds you could get, so I'm pretty good in that regard.
There you go.
I don't think I'm a race traitor in that sense, but
no, you're not.
No, not at all.
No, it's the same.
I don't know. I believe maybe the AXA future can happen. I mean, that's optimistic. I'm sorry, Pill Eater, but that's optimistic. The Asian Aryan fusion. I think that's. Although I don't know, maybe. I mean, if you want to compare civilizations, we're pretty much. Nah, I'm not going to go down that road. You know.
That deserves a whole other stream in itself. There,
I never understood the Asian fetish thing. I think maybe because like.
I really think it has to come due to the fact they like the Japanese cut themselves off for like a few hundred years.
Yeah.
Besides the Dutch, all you had to rely on was the Dutch for like 100 some odd years until the Americans told them to open up. So from there, I think you really get that bizarre Orientalism plus.
Yeah.
I mean, if you even want to go back further, go back to Marco Polo.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think it's Neoteny, I think too. It's like the picture of like the perfect Ymir anime waifu is like kind of like the you know what I mean? Like that's probably what it is.
I think it's partly that they still resemble
women.
No. They have a
they
resemble Europeans in many ways, like the
kind
color
of
their skin, their hair, things like that. But just not. So it's like a slight exoticism.
You get a simulacra of the Anglo.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're not in complete.
Even their attitudes and their behaviors.
Yeah,
like they're very.
They were trying to be the British, man.
They're more Anglo than the Anglos.
I mean, look at for example, Legend of the
Lev,
Galactic.
you had a Japanese girlfriend. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
Heroes.
Yeah.
Based in Red Pill. Yeah.
Well, that's an example of like.
I came here to laugh at you.
Yes,
He still refuses to tell me why they broke up. By the way.
Yeah, because that's none of your business. That's
private. Come on, Lev.
But Lev's a gentleman.
By the way, over here, I want to show you David Reboy. This is happening Thursday. We're gonna have David Reboy on.
Oh wow!
Here we go. Claremont Institute Senior Fellow, National Security and Political Warfare. And look, I put in two little David Reboys next to him.
How do I?
So, gallery.
Wow,
view,
first Aaron and now you. Look at you guys go.
Jack.
Yeah, and we're also
Aaron had a Claremont Institute Senior Fellow National Security. Well, I love how jacked he looks in that one. Yeah. Oh my god,
because he is jacked.
The first thing you need to ask is
he kind of looks like Batista a little bit.
Yeah,
he's a based Batista.
Yeah, he has the Batista shoulders. No.
Like Batista during his first run before like he just sold out. Went back for more millions. That first run was probably the best. I like my favorite part of Batista was the first run, but also when he was Leviathan in OVW. Apparently, Jim Cornette's wife forced Batista to do some degrading shit, but that's all allegations, though. I'm not going to go into how Jim Cornette was Me Too'd, but no, people don't know Jim Cornette was the main booker in OVW. Who?
Gio, you and Razor Fist would get along with all this wrestling knowledge.
Yeah, is Razor Fist really into it?
Oh yeah,
he's super into wrestling.
Get him on the
all right. Who knows Razor Fist? I've been trying to get a hold of the guy. Whoever knows Razor Fist, get him on BTR.
The best person, the best person who's close with him would be Styx, but I mean, Styx is a boomer when it comes to communication.
Yeah. Well, that's all right, and we got to get Styx back on as well. I really want to make a serial cover for him called Frosted Sticks, where we would have like Styx eating.
The river Styx.
Yeah, well, Styx because there could be like little sticks in the cereal, and Styx will be eating them with a spoon for a spoon.
Didn't Styx marry that other YouTuber? What's her name?
I don't. She does some kind of philosophy channel.
Philosophy Cat. No, not her. It was no. It was the other one. That's kind of cute. Like she used to be her reply girl, his reply girl, and it's like a reply girl. She reply girled him so much they ended up marrying. That's cute. That's a YouTube love story. That's way better than all the other YouTube couples that. You know.
The only two good YouTube couples. Trans. Yeah.
No, I'm not just.
Wait, who'd you say was a good YouTube couple?
Oh, I said the only two good YouTube couples examples you have are like Styx and Felix.
Yeah, but she was
PewDiePie.
Marzi a YouTuber?
Yeah, she was. She was a big YouTuber as well. Not as big
No
as him.
fucking way,
She was a
really?
yeah, she was a big makeup guru.
Yeah, she was a
Oh,
makeup
that's why I
artist.
don't know about it.
Yeah.
That's because she's in the fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
she
it's
was a
all
fashion
gay, man.
YouTuber.
Moss used to watch Marzia stuff before she watched PewDiePie stuff. Which is
Oh my
funny.
god.
Yeah.
How did Moss get into the whole Amber Lynn Reed drama and shit like that? That's hilarious.
Because she likes train wrecks. Like she likes to
Yeah,
watch train
lolcows.
wrecks, right? Like we enjoy a good episode of
Yeah,
My
a
600
good.
Pound Life or whatever the fuck, right?
I do
So,
enjoy a nice like daily Chantel, but monthly Chantel, but by what's the guy named Toad McJudas? Toad McFlynn. Sorry, yeah, I'm going by the PPP. No, but Toad. I remember the one time where Godwinson. He's like, notice how Toad just totally relies on Chantel. All of his emotions, he goes to Chantel. When he's angry, he goes to Chantel. When he's like,
you could say he totally relies on Chantel.
oh.
But anyway, guys,
got him.
we're gonna have to be going really soon.
That's
so
a
I
good
think
one.
that this
The
yes.
last thing about train wrecks, though, Gio or Lev, have you guys heard about the book "BreadTube Serves Imperialism"?
What?
What?
Oh,
What
okay.
is this?
So this leftist named Caleb Maupin, who's like
Oh,
Caleb, legit, lefty type. Which I didn't know this because I went in totally blind reading this book. And then the first 20 pages are about like January 6th, Occupy Wall Street, and like capitalism's in collapse. I was like, what the fuck am I reading? But like, yeah, this is one hell of a book where he pretty much accuses like BreadTube being this like op of the
they are.
of the
it
regime.
fully
I mean,
is.
they
They
totally
are.
are.
To-
But I
look
mean,
straight up.
but this is an
who the fuck
indictment. From
Caleb's
the
a
left.
great. Out of all the communist YouTubers, Caleb is probably the best.
Yeah, and I
that
bought a
it's an
communist
op?
book. That's great.
You know it's an op because the face of it is fucking Vaush.
Yeah, well, it
you
used
kidding?
to be Natalie, but now it's Vaush.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't Natalie just get canceled?
So it was.
For the 10th time this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a dandy trans person, right? And now it is a like schlub.
It was an
Fucking
EGP, and now
dude.
it's fucking schlub.
Like it's
Yeah.
just the word. Like
Give it-
Oh, the philosophy tube. There you
Yeah.
go. Right.
That's,
And
that's one
now
of the
Thought
reasons-
Slime.
That's one of the reasons.
What? Thought Slime too?
Yeah,
I
look
knew
at
it,
their
I
latest
called
video.
it.
Look at their latest video because shaved head, lipstick,
Oh my god.
and so I give
the
Bosch
only
6
way.
months. 6 months.
Out of all the people, I think Thought Slime's probably the worst. Apart from because Vouch, he really is the mouthpiece of the establishment. But I think Thought Slime is such a groveling, like he really is such a lesser mensch that like that video where you went after our good friend Jonathan Pageau. But these people, they don't even talk about theory anymore. They it's all grand. Like I know Philosophy Tube had the one video about what was the recent one about some bullshit about identity. And like it was all like it's all just vanity now. It's just theater kid vanity. That's what.
By the
That's
way,
what.
this is
Yeah. So
What
I
are
give,
those?
Can I say something real quick?
I
Can I
give
say
Bosch
something
6
real
months.
Just give me.
I give them 6 months.
Yeah, seriously. Give me
Yeah.
1 second here. I do not understand this phenomenon of people being incredibly ugly and unattractive,
Mhm.
right? And then being Yas Queen. Like,
Oh,
what is
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Why the fuck does anyone who could look at this photo of this man and go, wow, what a looker? Like, what the
Sorry, we
fuck
can't
is
say man
happening?
anymore.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
Wait,
for
did
YouTube.
did they confirm or no?
I think the pronoun is they.
Yeah, they're
No,
non-binary.
no,
Yeah,
but
I
did
don't-
it already happen, or do you guys think it's gonna happen?
No, it already happened.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
happened.
So non-BT, completely unrelated to BTR. BTR completely disavows this statement. But this man,
The Zer.
yeah, this man, very, very, very. What's happening here? Like, what the fuck?
Well, this is
Is this what you think being a woman is, man? I just don't understand this shit. He puts on a little bit of mascara and like eyeliner, and then black lipstick.
It's
And
literally the
that's-
goth girls they jerked off to. That's probably the.
Yeah, I
The
Gio, I don't think-
Danny Phantom characters.
Well, yeah, Randy Stair
Starfire.
was trans. Yeah, Starfire. Randy Stair was trans. Wasn't
Gio, I
he?
really think
Wait,
you're
was there some
correct about the-
Starfire book that came out with some chubby goth girl in it?
Yeah,
or-
it was.
but who's a total self-insert of the author?
Yeah, the woman who wrote it.
Wait, what
that
is
was
this?
something.
Let me look it up for research.
Yeah, look up "I am not Starfire."
I
Yeah.
am not Starfire.
And then like the character is a self-insert for the author. But Remus, no, like isn't this the byproduct though of like the whole social contagion that is this whole liberation ideology? And like we're forced to an extent, right, to like play along with it.
Yeah.
Like
oh my god, look at this.
Yeah.
Thunder thighs.
Yeah, I do be liking some thick girls though. I'm not gonna lie.
She's all right though. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I don't care.
It's such a self.
See, I thought at first this was supposed to be a Raven, because Raven kind of looks like that.
She, like the character looks 10 times better than the original author. The original author looks like a weird fatter version of Kasama. I don't know why.
This is why, dude. You guys have no idea.
Wait, you know who she looks like? Here, I'll show you an image of her, and I'll tell you what she looks like. Hold on. So this is the
level
original...
of self-insert garbage that is available.
Silence equals death, and it's got the pink. She's wearing a shirt that says "Silence equals death."
Wow.
Okay.
Silence is violence.
Silence is violence. Exactly.
Okay, I want to show you. You know who she looks like? Okay, so this is the picture of her, right? You guys see it on the screen.
Yep.
And this is the first thing I was reminded of.
Yeah.
Nice.
She does.
Yeah,
look
Kasama,
like
exactly.
she looks
That's
like her.
yeah.
Huh. No case.
I think if she I mean, she's not totally bad, but I mean, I don't know if she she did more with her hair, maybe. I don't know.
If she got rid of the bangs.
Yeah, she got rid of the bangs. That probably would be.
If I were still in my debauchery phase, I wouldn't mind.
How old is she? Because I feel like she would probably have been cuter with this look.
Yeah, if she was a bit younger.
Yeah.
She's probably early 30s.
By the way, Remus, to answer your question,
30 going on 55.
Like Galatian women.
To answer your question,
Galatian women. Oh god.
Remus, to answer your question before of why people would make up these excuses and show so much honor, I think it has again, I think Giorgiani's right where he talks about this also being a Promethean aspect of wanting to be the martyr. Wanting to martyr one's sense of even what is right and true for the sake of making somebody feel better.
I think you're correct too. I think that there's a lot to that. It's everything must be sacrificed at the altar of feeling nice and feeling good about yourself. It doesn't matter. It's the fat acceptance shit is the same shit. It's it doesn't matter what it does to me. I'm going to continue to do this forever simply because I refuse to accept the idea that I have to change or that I am not worthy or whatever thing, right? It's probably just, and I also think that Gio has a really good point on the autogynephilia, the autogynephilia aspect. I think is a big thing. It's these guys are trying to be this is an old joke on 4chan is I want to be the little girl, right? I wish to be the one who gets who people are attracted to. I wish to be the one who has.
But it's,
you know what's funny is that Logo they went after Logo recently for that exact take where he's you're probably just a product of child abuse or something like that, or watching too much porn.
Give him 2 months and he'll reverse his opinion.
2 weeks. What are you talking about?
Yeah, 2
but
weeks.
Logo,
let
Logo
the
is.
Chinese say something nice about trans and he'll just flip immediately.
I can't believe that that Soros went after the Chinese. Well, Logo blew my mind.
Well, that's competition. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a civilizational thing too. You have if there's one piece of work I think everyone should read, it's Samuel P. Huntington. That analysis is so vital. Yeah, but I think Logo, he reminds me of when he said that, he's what do these trads think of this? And it's where Soros is saying Xi is evil. He's kind of like the Paul cell with the gif where he's putting the thing in your face, look at this, trads, look at this. And it's I love Logo. I can't lie. He's great. I mean, I think he's a good poster. I like his contribution. I like what he's certainly better than the other one. Yeah. But I think Logo, the problem with that thread is that he did just reduce it down to that's what he always does. You watch porn and shit as a kid. I think me and Matthew were talking about this. I think he discredits I'm not saying this. This is true. You could look up the statistic, but the amount of autism that is involved in certain proclivities later on in life. Yeah. I think that there's probably a variety of factors that go into why we're seeing the explosion of these quote unquote alternative gender identities. I don't know. Yeah, well, if you think about it psychologically, it's essentially just a obsession with this. You can't. It's almost like OCD
but it's about your like genitals and what you look like.
Yeah,
right?
there's
It's
a
like gender-
dysphoric.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Obsessive. It's obsessive to the degree. It's like, dude, why is this literally your entire life? This is all you think about. This is all you talk about. This is all you. Your whole identity is built around this. It's so confusing. I don't understand. It's like, bro, just do literally anything else. Get a fucking hobby.
Go outside.
Yeah, go outside.
Go
Touch
outside.
grass.
Not to
Touch
be the
grass.
touch grass guy, but literally touch grass. Like I don't know.
I remember Natalie.
Take up fishing.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
fucking
take-
hike. Go hike a mountain.
I remember
shout out to Weird
ContraPoints.
Hiker.
Oh,
by the
God.
way,
Shout out to Weird Hiker. My boy.
did you see this, by the way?
Wow.
He
Logo
looks
looking
exactly
good.
like
God
his
damn.
wife in this photo. That's pretty
God
weird.
damn. That's yeah.
Logo looks, you know, oh my God, Logo looks exactly like my cousin. I have one cousin that's the same age as me, and Logo, like the gender swap Logo looks exactly. She's exactly like that. The glasses, skinny as a poke. Shout out to my cousin Jessica, by the way.
Someone needs to Photoshop gender's face swapped logo onto the Jabba the Hutt picture.
Oh, God.
that
Oh,
needs to
God.
go onto the slave
On the
layout.
Jabba the Hutt one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
outfit.
Oh my God.
Okay, what are
but
we even
no,
doing?
I think yeah,
Having
we're just
fun,
fucking
Lev.
around
We're
here.
having fun.
But I think like what I mean, I don't say that like, you know, autism causes you're gonna be a MB kid. I think that it's just one among many factors. I think that access to pornography at early ages. I think that in some case it does come down to biology and legitimate gender dysphoria. But I think that those rates have been stable throughout time. But now we're seeing this different sort of complexification of identity through gender that is for a variety of reasons. But like, for example, gay dudes have always been around from time immemorial. In fact, gay dudes have been some of the movers and shakers in art and culture.
By the way, look at this comment from Cyber Ninja Zero. Geo ready to continue the Italian tradition of inbreeding.
No, my cousin's almost engaged now. No, what am I fucking talking about?
Maybe you can
fuck
disengage. Okay, but I do want to mention.
Disengage is a great Suicide Silence song, by the way.
But
R.I.P. Mitch
just to go
Lucker,
back,
but he fucking died in the worst fucking stupid way possible.
How
He
did
had
he
a
die?
wife and kid, decided to get drunk, go on his fucking Harley, and just went into a fucking tree like an idiot. His wife was begging him not to go. Although I do admit the first few albums of Suicide Silence are pretty good. The new ones are total trash. I don't know why. As soon as you replace the singer, that's all over. That's why I can't listen to new Alice in Chains. I can't for the life of me.
It's not.
Lane
It's not the same.
Stalley,
Yeah, it's not the same without Lane.
yeah, so
I don't
close
even
to
know
my
why they
heart.
tried. Yeah, I don't
By the
even
way,
know.
They should just let Jerry sing everything. He's a great
Yeah,
singer.
Jerry Cantrell's an excellent singer.
Yeah, his solo Degradation Trip is one of the best albums ever outside of Alice in Chains. Sorry, Lev, we keep fucking.
We're talking.
Here, okay, I want to bring this back to the thing that Uberboyo said when he was talking about, the need to have pressure. It almost feels like a lot of these return to, well, not return because they, never were, but like go into this position of being like a little girl, like that 4chan thing you guys talked about. It almost feels like, I want less pressure to be on me. I want easy mode. Why can't I have easy mode?
Yeah, that's
exactly
true.
what it is.
Yeah.
What do you think the fat acceptance? A great example of this.
Yeah,
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 it's
healthy
only
at every
for
size.
women.
Yeah, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only for women. That's the best part. It's like I
Yeah.
just don't want to do it. They will lose literally any cope possible. You should see the mental gymnastics that goes. It's like, dude, if you had this much energy towards losing weight, you wouldn't have these problems in your life.
They have this theory that hypertension doesn't come from obesity; it comes from the stress that of doctor telling you that
being
you have
obese.
obesity. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
They have like this weird, like it's kind of like AIDS denialism. It's like that one step. It's like they try to like, you know what I mean? Like they have the margin of like.
Yeah, well, and these people also, the best part about them is that they're also trust the science people. You know, what I
Yeah,
mean?
weird,
They
eh?
simultaneously trust the science people, and it's like, dude, how do you the cognitive dissonance is so crazy. It's like, bro, how are you gonna pretend like physics doesn't apply to your joints? Not
Yeah.
real. Yeah, not real for me, but in all
Yeah,
other
my knee
things.
hurts right now. Fuck.
Yeah, it's not it's
Yeah.
very strange, but I think that's a big aspect of it. It's trying to it's kind of like imagine if you're in track for something, right? And you're training every single day, training really hard, and then some dude just smokes your ass, and and you ask him, bro, what do you do? How do you train? He's like, I don't. And you're just like, oh, like it makes you feel like I shouldn't even bother.
Yeah.
Why am I even trying? That is the thing that every person has to fight in order to be something, right? But it's like this, the impulse is, yeah, but that makes me feel bad. And we live in a world where feeling bad is like the worst sin. So I must never feel that again. And as a result, I'm going to reject it entirely. I'm going to even pretend that I'm going to cut my goddamn leg off. Like, you know what I mean? It's that level of like, no, I won't accept it. I refuse. I will not accept the fact that I need to work on myself or change something about myself in order to get where I want to be. Because the worst part is that they all have a desire for something better, but they warp their perception into thinking that the better world is the one in which they are allowed to be mediocre, rather than a better world being the one in which they have risen to the challenge and become something better. Yeah.
Look at what Cyber Ninja Zero said. I am also lazy, but I'm not fat. Therefore, I'm superior to you.
Although I did hear that that's a big problem in the Islamic world in general. Like some of the richer countries, like Saudi and so on and so forth.
They learn that from
have
us
a lot
meds, the laziness.
Well, they have a lot of
higher
obesity.
Laziness.
No, just in general. Like I think a lot of the oil-rich countries are also rich in calories for a lot of
do?
the well-off people. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
there's a lot
Saudi
of
Arabia's got a
obesity.
huge obesity problem, Gio.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Really?
because they're wealthy. Like they got their wealth very quickly. They had basically no.
That was like that obese ISIS commander.
Yeah, that guy.
That was pretty funny.
They were like wheelbarrowing that fucking dude.
Oh, look what it says. ArabNews.com. 70% of Saudis are obese, says study.
Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised in the slightest.
Yeah.
Anybody who
well, they could pay people to walk for them.
Yeah, literally.
Literally,
they'll just pay
They
a
own
slave
people.
from Bangladesh to walk for them or something like that. Yeah, it's that's a I think that's part of it, right? I was gonna say during the decadence part of the conversation, you can see that manifesting in things like World of Warcraft being as popular as they are, right? It's not, and this is actually the point. It's not that the Thumos doesn't exist. It's that it's like Vril, yo. Everybody's Vril is being channeled into fucking cooming all day, rather than
it's true.
rather than doing shit. It's
Exactly.
the same
I
idea.
think you just called out Turning Point USA's new marketing.
but at the same
You called
time,
it the Lincoln Project.
but at the same time, I think the Kellogg brothers or whoever it was, they were wrong because their whole thing was
they destroyed this planet. Holy shit!
Let's just feed this crap to people so they don't have the Vril in the first place. I guess I don't know, because it's like when you have the Vril, and obviously there's a lot of sexual
you know
energy.
What's funny is that my good friend Reform Swarto, he did his handle is Kojima Stan. He did this thread on the cookbook by the Italian futurists, and it's funny.
I saw that. That was so interesting.
Yeah, like Marinetti, he basically wanted you to reject the pasta and bread pill as an Italian because it came from the Ostrogoths, and so basically, like the way he talks about pasta, it's like how black like the equivalent for me as Italian, it's like how the black nationalists talk about how soul food is basically destroying the genome of black people. And I'm like, that's pretty interesting, but
oh my God, that is amazing. By the way, here is from Britannica.com.
It was the pasta the whole time.
It was Italians are the real hoteps. So
by the way, are you guys ready for this? This is 2016, but still, this is the 2016 obesity levels. So the number one country, I haven't even heard of this country.
Canada.
Is it a fake country? No, it's Nauru. That sounds like a fake country.
Pacific Island country.
Nauru. It's a Pacific Island. Yeah, so the population is small. That's probably why.
Yeah.
So why are Samoans obese?
Yeah, then we have the Cook Islands.
Their genetics is
Palau.
not designed for the shit that they're eating. That's why.
Probably.
Marshall Islands, Tuvalu, Niue, Tonga, Samoa, Kiribati,
yeah, we basically
Micronesia.
genetically poison them with their food.
Okay, here's the first big country. Okay, here's the first big country.
Mexico.
This is bad news. Bad news for Atheist people. Kuwait. That is like the first, country. And you know what the second one? Oh, say, can you
America.
see
Of course,
America?
America.
Of course.
Yes. Then we have Jordan. Then we have Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Libya, Turkey, Egypt, Lebanon, the United Arab Emirates, Bahamas, New Zealand, Iraq, Fiji, Bahrain, Canada. That's number 26.
Canada. We're getting up there with America.
Australia, Malta, Mexico, Argentina, South Africa, Chile, Dominica, Uruguay, Syria,
Well,
Arab
Argentina is
Republic.
because of all the Europeans.
Mhm,
I actually,
yeah.
I don't think that this is accurate anymore. I was under the impression that Mexico was the country.
They
with
say
the,
Mexico's
with the highest
obesity.
propensity.
Yeah,
of
the Mexican
obesity.
health minister has like lambasted the
If-
population because they're worse than us.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you go to Mexico, for example, if anybody lives in the States, if you can, try to get a Mexican soda.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that
Try to get a
shit's
Mexican
real
Sprite.
real cane sugar.
Yeah.
They're insane. They're insane. So all their shit's like that, right? That's part of the reason. But I heard it was them. If you adjust for population and all of that stuff, they have the highest
Per capita.
propensity- Yeah, per capita, right?
Yeah.
I heard it's all the women too. That's what BAP said.
Well, it's the food. Well, it's the women, but it's also the food, right? Like you have
Yeah.
a culture
Well.
that is so high in fat,
Yeah, it's true.
Mhm.
and then you add in all the stuff from the West. Like it doesn't help.
Yeah, and,
Mhm.
and you also take away again. You have to think about the genetics of these people. What were their ancestors doing for the vast majority of the time, right? Everybody was way more active, way
Well,
more, you know.
It
Same
was
with
the
the
soda, man.
Aborigines in Australia. The Aborigines, like I looked at that old photo, it was like pure muscle, just
Dude,
like
they
muscle
are
everywhere,
diesel.
hardly any
They're
fat.
Diesel. They're diesel. They're fucking ridiculous in shape, right? But then you give them.
Wait, they huff diesel
Alcohol.
too?
Oh, God
Oh
damn.
no! Oh, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
they
kidding.
go from diesel body to diesel brain. Not good.
That's
not good.
terrible.
You know what?
By the
though?
way,
It's
here-
true.
It's the
here's
soda, bro. It's
Shout out to
that's
the
the
Bikey Boys. Shout out to the
here's the,
Bikey Boys. Look at
yeah.
that
the
shit.
before and after.
God.
So
Look at
this
that
was
shit. Look, he literally looks like Adam.
Yeah, I
That's what-
know.
That's what Adam
He's an
looks-
Adonis.
Yeah, that's
We
what
fucking
Adam looks-
destroyed these
He's
people.
literally Giga Chad.
I think
like-
that's worse than even just outright genocide, in my opinion.
No, yeah, it's
You
Oh,
know,
no,
like
yeah.
when you really think
it
about
is
it.
worse. If you think about the idea of like the Greeks had this idea of dying when you were beautiful, right?
Yeah,
That's a beautiful
True.
thing. If you're eradicated at your glory, at least you fought.
like
right?
the Americans,
This
they
is
like
to be fucking debased and
yeah.
destroyed and fucking ruined. Your ancestors or your descendants are ruined. Everything. It's just takes everything.
Look what the Americans did to the Comanche and to the Lakota. Like I remember there was accounts by explorers about how beautiful they looked, but yet they got fucking slaughtered by the Americans. But it's like the people in the reservations now, like look at their rates of AIDS and heart disease and
And alcoholism.
diabetes, alcoholism. Yeah,
because they're the survivors. They're not the
yeah,
population. They're the survivors of it. So it's like a
Yeah.
genetic bottleneck in many ways, plus the degradation of their life, their livelihood, their inability to live the lives that they had always lived.
But it's funny how the Japanese haven't become fat and disgusting though, like the rest of us.
Because the Japanese never imported those. The Japanese were never colonized in that way.
Nope.
You understand? They let the people in.
No, yeah, the closest thing that you get to is like the Meiji Restoration, but even then, that's a Japanese endeavor.
That was their
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
That was their choice. They did that on purpose.
And
because
that
they
was like
wanted
the
to catch
first
up.
instance of like what I say the name of that anime, the Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Yes.
Like Emperor Meiji, basically Legend of the Galactic Hero, Japan.
He did. He literally did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, even if you wanted, sorry to interrupt, like even if you wanted a more contemporary example of like survivors, like look what like post LBJ Great Society to Black America.
Yeah,
You want to talk about like a genocide of a culture? Look at what like Black America's middle and upper class looked like in like 1964
Mhm.
and compare it to today. Like in 2 generations, you have destroyed like a culture, like an entire upper and middle class, like single like parent households are through the roof, drugs and alcohol and like obesity rates are through the roof. Like to me, it's
yeah,
like
black
you want,
obesity. That's
you want
another
to talk
big
about
issue.
destruction of a culture and the survivors, like LBJ's Great Society in the name of like egalitarianism and the Civil Rights Act. We destroyed Black America in 2 generations.
Well,
Even the
we're-
rates of cancer and heart disease.
Well, we are
Yeah.
going to have a Wilford Riley coming in Thursday, August 5th, and we're going to be talking about this with him as well. And also, who's going to be joining us for that stream is Daniel. Remember Daniel Ifrense, who was here before for a couple of streams? Young man, very...
I remember
very
him.
cool dude. Yeah. So Daniel, I think he definitely agree with you on these problems. He is fortunate enough to have been raised in such a household where it's like the complete opposite of that shit, because his father is this what do you call it, like what's the name of the hold on, not Dominican Republic, but Haiti. So they're originally from Haiti, like the ancestors, but his father is a Baptist minister. All right, that is like super alpha Chad in the community, and I really think that rubbed off on Daniel as far as mentoring him into the person that he is today. So, like,
certainly teaches you how to be charismatic, how to talk to people, how to show them that you care about what they're saying, about what they think. Teaches you how to be a good orator, all the rhetorical techniques, even just the ability to convince, all of that stuff. Yeah, very, very, very useful. Jim Jones, again, I'm going to shout out Martimate again. Not that he needs it at this point.
Wait, Jim Jones of Jonestown?
Yes, Jim Jones.
Wow.
He learned how to do what he did. Jim Jones is actually super interesting.
Yeah.
As a person.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Did you know he was one of I think he was one of the first white
to have integrated churches.
Yeah, and to adopt a black child.
That's right.
Yep.
He was also a big
that he's
deal.
sexually abused, by the way, but that's
of course.
Oh, just like Peter the Great.
No, book breaking.
Yeah, but,
God! Oh no! Oh fuck!
Jim Jones was unironically a buck breaker.
He unironically was, yeah.
Not a joke.
He was also he didn't even believe in God. He was like a Soviet sympathizer.
Oh no, he was a communist. He was like a card-carrying
was
communist with close ties to Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein. But no one talks about that.
Yeah, no, they were very close.
Oh yeah.
Then how come when they killed Leo Ryan, I wonder how Pelosi took that. But I guess he was her competition, if I recall at the time. I wonder, really
they washed their hands of it, man.
Really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really makes you think. Again,
I remember one time I was reading this. It was probably just a weird schizo post. It was linked from 4chan where this guy, he claimed to be a CIA person, and that Jim Jones was known, like he was an asset basically, and he was doing a mind control thing, and like how they got UNITA from Angola to go there and like hide some of the bodies, because the first count was initially 500, then it beefed up to 900 when they went on the ground. So it was like this weird.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he probably was an asset. In my opinion.
but he would be a terrible asset, bro. Like
he was.
I cannot stress enough how absolutely insane
batshit he was.
Oh yeah, he was fucking crazy.
And it's not like it's hearsay. The man has like hours and hours and hours of recordings of him just ranting endlessly, right?
You think we could get Daryl Cooper on?
Maybe before, it'd be tougher now, but I would love it.
It's
That'd be
probably
amazing.
tougher
Daryl's really cool. He did a series on Jim Jones as well. Called God.
Can we get Bill Cooper on from the grave?
We'll have to do a seance.
Let's do a seance for Bill Cooper. That would be hype.
Oh yeah.
Bill Cooper's a
Oh, and by the way, speaking of seances and all that stuff, for all the people who are listening here who brought in the super chats for our astrology stream, if you have not contacted me yet, contact me, because I need to get everybody together so we can choose a date. So Michael Scotto will do all your readings, and that is going to be a Patreon-only stream, by the way. Well, except for the people, obviously, who gave the super chats. They're going to be a part of it, too. But, we're going to have a lot of interesting stuff for the patrons coming soon. Speaking of which, patreon.com/breaktherules. You know what time it is. Patreon.com/breaktherules. What are you guys doing? We're going to have so many interesting things coming your way for patreon.com/breaktherules. You better become a member.
We're going to make more Patreon-only stuff. So.
We will and we shall. I double dog dare you.
Did you know that Jim Jones...
I'm making a Patreon pitch.
Oh,
Let me finish the Patreon pitch.
Jim Jones
Here we
is
go.
good at pitching.
He is good at pitching. Oh God.
He could sell to anyone. Yeah.
Oh, wait, Gio, did you get the reference? I think Remus meant a different kind of fishing. If you catch
every double meaning was meant.
Exactly. Anyway, $5 patrons are going to get access to our Discord. They are going to get the MP3 files as soon as they come out for the episodes before the regular MP3 sites.
Oh yeah, we got to plug our Apple podcast.
That's
We're
right.
on
Yeah.
Apple.
Oh, you're
hopefully
Apple
get
now.
some
Beautiful.
boomers listening to us.
Yes.
Boomers will, if you have a boomer parent, they will listen to Apple Podcasts. My old man listens to that Man and the Woman, the one he all those like horror like not horror, but like
True
like,
crime.
Yeah, like unsolved mysteries and also paranormal stuff. I was watching this one interview with him with this guy who was in the Navy, and him and his friend went on this camping trip, and they got abducted, and he had this implant in his leg. It was the scariest fucking shit ever. All those people that say the aliens are benevolent and like fucking Neil Tyson. I guess the aliens, like these people, the aliens are demons. Okay, they're fucking
just
demons.
fucking kill them instantly.
Just kill them. Yeah.
Wait, which are we talking about here? Because there's like the demon aliens, but then there may also be... Hold on, but then there may also be like the Jason Giorgiani Aldebaran aliens. You know, the ones with Operation High Jump.
Yeah, they get the bullet too.
But Giorgiani works for them, so they.
The bullet too. Thank you very much.
Apparently, Jim Jones, he back when there was the Cold War, he moved to this one town in California. What was it called? Not Utica. Started with a U. Because he saw that in this map that there was locations in America that would be safe, supposedly if like they bombed major cities with a nuke. Yeah, so he moved to this specific town because he thought that the nuclear suns were going to come down and punish evil America because they didn't want to adopt luxury gay communism. So luxury racially integrated communism.
By the way, here's the link. Here's the link. Break the Rules on Apple Podcasts. I just posted the link in the chat, so all the people who are watching this,
if you have boomer parents, give this to them, please.
Yes, share this with them, please. And also, we are on Spotify as well. We can't forget about good old Spotify. So don't forget to follow us there.
I have to pay for it in Canada. I don't pay for Spotify, but you guys can.
Yes,
America.
So anyway, with the Patreon, that is for $5. For $20, you are going to get a beautiful magnet created by my dad. The next design, by the way, that's being worked on right now is going to be the Brittany Venti moth. So if you guys are fans of the Venti and you guys are a fan of moths, this is going to be the time to become a patron so you get this exclusive limited time only magnet of Brittany Venti moth. And by the way, I had a dream about Brittany Venti, which I'm going to say after the Patreon plug. Okay, so anyway, $30 patrons are going to get a beautiful print from Giovanni Pennacchietti right here. You know him, you love him. And here, I'm going to play it for you as well. Let me just find it. There are so many things in my OBS window, by the way. I'm like a hoarder when it comes to the OBS layer system, for those who know what I'm talking about here. You know what I mean? Like, this is why I got to... tabs. Yeah, well, it's not. It's just gonna like several documents. It's like this much now. Yeah. So I'm just trying to find Gio's thing here because for those who did not see it, here we go. Patreon print.mp4. Here it is. You can see it in action right here, right now. Giovanni Pennacchietti in the house, making the print, making it happen, and this is why we love him. No, this is not the only reason, but this is definitely up there as far as why we love him. Anyway. $50 patrons are going to get all of the above, plus they're going to get a custom magnet, whatever they want, they'll get within limits, of course. Within reason. Guys, you got to be reasonable here. Anyway, Gio, what else do they get?
Yeah, his father can't carve in the little magnet of the Assumption or something that, like, terribly complex. Oh, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I mean, how much does Jonathan Pajou sell for? Like, I don't want to think about that. Probably a good chunk of change.
By the way, I did actually find out from we have people we know in Russia who like are of the faith. You know,
here we go.
They're Russian Orthodox. There's no such thing like traditionally as wood carvings for.
They have it, but it's more of in the Greek and the. It's not in Russia proper. It's in other places.
Interesting. Yeah, because
the Ethiopians do a lot of carving.
Interesting, yeah, because they were really surprised by it. Like, carving? What? There was never carving. So that's it's an interesting thing. But anyway, regardless of that,
Russia they don't have a huge diversity of hardwoods. They have some they think they have maple.
I would have thought Russia has a lot of trees, but I guess in terms of the sheer diversity of the trees, I could be wrong about that.
It's also a pretty the environment is pretty harsh. So a lot of tree species can't deal with it, right? You're gonna have a lot of pine and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
you know,
cold winters. Yeah,
exactly.
Because hardwood species require temperate, like slow growth, like a lot of fruit woods. Like that's what, like with wood engraving, that's mostly what I use is either cherry. Now I have a fuck ton of peach and pear now.
But have there been any other examples in terms of Orthodox history in general of carvings, or would you say that Jonathan is carving a new niche for himself?
No, there was carvings. There was carvings. Like carving certain like lower class, more like regional churches. They couldn't afford a lot of like marble carvings, so they would go with wood. Even in Italy, they have like more like provincial churches. They have
but Italy is an Orthodox, like specifically.
But
Orthodox...
it goes like they had a different style of carving than like, Bible says graven images explicitly. There was a tradition of carving, but it's not as common as the
for Orthodox iconography.
Yeah,
right?
It's not nearly as common as Orthodox iconography painting, but it's there.
Because like the ones that I'm aware of is like the painting, and then you also have that armor around the painting.
You trying to question
cool.
his trad authenticity, Lev? Is that what you're trying to do? No. Carving does still require the skills of drawing and draftsmanship. And,
no, it's definitely a beautiful thing. I'm just interested as far as like historically, is this a new thing or has this existed before? Like, is it, that's what I'm kind of interested in. But anyway, look, regardless of that,
so $50 patron.
Yes, $50 patron.
You also get a poster print of anything you want. If you want an Ayala poster, you want a Brittany Venti poster, you want a David Reibold poster to motivate you in the gym.
What if I want a Goatsy poster?
I think, did we have one animation like that, Lev?
No, we had something about Goatsy, but I was just combining images. From the
it wasn't
internet.
Like the actual.
Oh, by the way, Minotaur says, "Can I get the print if I manually donate $30 worth of crypto?"
We're gonna work on some way to do merch that will involve a ready to order print, like a selection, but also like we're thinking of t-shirts and shit like that.
I mean, I could see about the crypto thing, but here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm winging it for the most part as far as like how do you do certain things when it comes to complex questions like $30 of crypto. All I can say is that with the Patreon, the intention and the hope is that you would stay on. And also for all the people who would stay on for Patreon, you would keep getting new prints every year. So if you stay on, it's going to keep on going, which is why like we make it Patreon, not so much a single donation.
But we're thinking of single like a merch store like Redbubble.
Like Sticks. We could have our own mugs and stuff like that. That would be pretty cool. You guys wouldn't be opposed to drinking out of a BTR mug, right?
No, and the logo lends itself to that kind of thing.
And we're gonna have a Gundalini mug. That's what we're gonna do.
Exactly.
We're gonna design a Gundalini mug.
Maybe we can team up with the good people of. Hold on, I have a brain fart right now. We're gonna team up with the good people of. Hold on, what is wrong with me? First of all, everybody subscribe. Everybody subscribe so that we grow. Yada yada yada. Good people of Grift Shop. There we go. So
we could do Grift Shop.
Yeah, guys. Yeah. Grift.shop. Go there right now.
Does he print his own thing, or how does that work?
So I think I have some of the shirts here. I just want to show you. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. So
all right. So for $100 patrons, what they're gonna do is they're gonna have Mask Bastard actually explain to you in detail what happens if Ant-Man goes inside of Thanos' asshole and expands. That is the $100.
What happens if Ant-Man goes into Thanos? It's kind of like Lemmy Winks, but only Ant-Man. With Thanos.
Well, if he expands, right? If he goes back to normal size while
for those who
asshole.
don't know, the Sunday stream, for some reason, Mass Bastard couldn't stop talking about Thanos and like
asshole.
Putting things up his ass. Yeah.
By the way,
Grift Shop,
this is the
nice.
Grift Shop over here, and look at this. By the way,
that's got to be silkscreen printing.
Well, look at this. This is stitching over here. Look how high quality this
Oh,
is.
nice.
That's nice shit.
See
like
the
that.
Egyptian, scale, the L and the W over here. So
Yeah, we got to do some kind of like maybe through Grift Shop or we got to do T-shirts.
hell yeah, it
We're
is
gonna have
coming.
Kundalini T-shirts. Maybe I
Guys,
could put one of my Wojaks on a T-shirt.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that would be good.
Yeah.
Well, look, guys, we are.
I love the big hug more than any. That would be an excellent shirt. in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, that would be a great one.
Right, and then
And in the
you could
yeah,
say-
the big hug in the front and the
Yeah.
back will have the BTR logo.
exactly.
Then it'll be like Stronger Together. We'll have like a caption in the front.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also for Patreon, we are going to have Gio's beautiful painting from the Bob Ross style. Let's not
Yeah,
forget
yeah.
about that.
And
And
still got
and-
that other thing going on, Lev, or no?
what other thing?
The Warhammer.
Oh yes,
Jules
yes, the Jules Hamilton Warhammer 40K action figures painted by Jules. You're
Yeah,
going
Jules
to
gonna
get
paint
that.
a nice figure for you. It's very hard to paint those figures well,
Mm.
and to make them look nice and to make them, specialized. If you give him specific instructions, I'm sure that he would probably help indulge that. But yeah, you can get one of those.
Hell yeah. All right,
Yeah.
guys, this is it. This is the end of the stream. As always, thank you so much for watching. Let me plug what's going to be happening in on Thursday. That's going to be our David Reboy stream.
What are we talking about with that one?
We're going to be talking about Qatar. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff.
You gotta send me some of his articles. Or whatever.
Ask him about his capped shoulders and if he's natty.
If he's natty,
yeah.
that'll be like an hour long like screaming
Literally
match.
just.
We're gonna get in Philly on to see if he's natty or not. That'd be
Oh
amazing.
boy. Oh, and I do have to put that actually into the actual contents. So, see, I forget to do that sometimes. So here, I'm putting it in
David
the chat
Rebold.
right now. David Reboy, this Thursday, 5 o'clock. Be there or be square. Oh, and also Indian Bronson is joining us for that one as well.
Nice.
So that should be very
Too bad
interesting.
we gotta have like a foreign policy. I wonder if we get Nicolo Sallo. I wonder if we get Nick Sallo.
That should be interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, hold on.
fucking guy doesn't
secure-
respond to my fucking thing. He should
Here we-
he should come on just for the fact that we like basically like almost grew up in the same area. Not really. I mean, Hamilton's not the same as Niagara, but Hamilton's like the cool version of Toronto.
Hmm.
Hamilton sucks.
I know, that's why. If you want to see real crazy people, go to Hamilton. Toronto has no
real.
crazy. Toronto has like freaks, but they don't have crazy people. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
They have like the freaks that you would expect. Like they're just degenerates. If you
Yeah.
want crazies, you gotta go to Hamilton.
wait, Chris Allen, how does he have bad takes? What's his bad
Yes,
takes?
please let us know. So we'll question him about the bad takes.
Yeah, I got to see these bad takes.
Yeah. So while
Maybe
he's
we'll hear about them on the stream.
Well, I mean, Claremont Institute. Yeah, Claremont Institute. You know what you're getting. You're getting the Americanism type stuff.
I like
You know.
America. I don't know what you
Of
guys are
course you
talking
do,
about.
Lev. Of course.
Yes. So over here, by
It's
the
a
way,
juicy plum for you.
this is oh Lord Geo. Okay, here we go. Left stream, art stream.
That
by
was
the way,
what happened before Sunday, but you go and watch it again.
yeah. So this was a Sunday stream, but I'm
Some of
using,
it was nonsense, though. It was talking about Thanos' cock and all that.
yeah. No, but it was but I did enjoy Conscious Karakal talking
Yeah,
with us about
very
South
informative.
Africa and all these things. So check that out. It's a really
That dude
good
is
stream.
very inspirational, man.
Yeah.
That dude is very inspirational.
You want to
Like,
talk about a
everybody
guy
should
who's
be paying
actually
attention.
fighting?
Exactly.
Yeah, he's like 20. He's 25, and he's
Exactly.
like 45. You know, he's like
A
45.
guy who's actually
terms of his-
like fighting for his people.
Yeah, and
There you go.
he's ready to do, and he's actually, it's not just speech, like he's genuinely actually trying to solve problems and do things, which
Yeah.
is powerful, man, powerful.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Well, look, I hope that in a certain way BTR can solve problems as well, because we do combine different people together who otherwise wouldn't talk, and that could hopefully be the butterfly that flaps its, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, guys, this
So
is the
next
end of-
week, what do we got?
All right, next week we have got okay. We have David Reboy, as I mentioned. So right now, Delicious Tacos. You got to get back to me, man. You got to let me know, because he has said, like, what time? Well, I said what time, so he has to get back to me now to confirm whether he's going to be on with Brittany Venti Tuesday, July 27th, or whether he's going to be with
God.
Brittany Venti on Tuesday, August 10th. So those are the two
What a
dates.
disaster.
Either way, if that's not going to happen, there's going to be our e-girl, e-grill stream. So all
Oh.
the grillers out there, take the grill pill and join us for that that one.
I'll have
But
my kitties ready for that.
But also, I really want Bimbo Uramensch to join us for that one as well. And Brittany's joining us too. So whichever day that happens.
We're going to have, oh my God, it's going to devolve into Mean Girls so fucking fast.
Oh, man.
I can't wait for it. It's going to be amazing.
Next, we have Thursday, July 29th, Kenny Zhu coming in. And Kenny Zhu, he is an author of the book An Inconvenient Minority, The Attack on Asian American Excellence in the Fight for Meritocracy. So I think it's also going to be along the similar lines of the kind of things that we talked about regarding culture and all that. So next, we are going to have Logo versus Amy Therese, and that is going to be Tuesday, August 3. And you mentioned, Gio, you mentioned that is idealism and what? Because I have to fill in the thumbnail. What is the
Realpolitik?
No, wait,
you said it better. It's Logo versus Amy Therese.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that'll be fun.
Yeah, but what is like
two girls
Logo
fighting
versus Amy? Jesus Christ, Remus.
What?
All right, looks like I'm gonna have to listen to that old.
Hopefully, Logo will change his opinion by then, so we can see.
No, but it's like wait, okay, which one of them is an idealist and which one of them is like the opposite of an idealist? What is the big differentiator?
Okay, guys.
You mentioned this before. Okay.
Yeah, well, they were beefing on Twitter. I have to look it up. But Prudentialist, what do you think they'd be beefing about?
Oh, at this point, I think. Well, I don't know. Isn't Amy right? To me, I don't follow Logo too much. I know I've been following Amy lately, and Amy, I think, is just sort of subtweeting Aaron McIntyre lately.
Yes,
it's been very weird. But I think there's going to be some conversations over. I think just the whole trad stuff.
Yeah. Probably.
Well, that's still not good enough for the subheader.
China.
So, I need good subheader material, and you guys said this.
Idealism versus realism. I don't know.
There we go.
Realpolitik.
Okay.
That's what.
Yeah, idealism versus realism. I don't care if it's true or not. It fits in. The font is going to match. You know, because guys, I think in terms of how much space a certain amount of text would take place on the thumbnail in Photoshop. That's how I come up with the titles.
My favorite edit of Amy Therese is the Amy Therese Griper where she's she's ODing on Red Bull, but it says deranged at the top, but she's like slurping, it's like going down her chin. She's like fucking ODing, her eyes are like popping out.
Oh,
I love that Griper edit. Because I could tell on stream I could tell she's ODing on Red Bull. She's just like fucking she's like cracking. It's like kind of like Millennial Woes when he did the Millennial had like the giant case of Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Like as each stream would go on, it would progressively go down. It's kind of like Amy. She's probably got like a giant thing of Red Bull in the background.
Well, we should have a stream purely for the reason of what you just mentioned with Amy Therese and Turkey Tom, because Turkey Tom likes the monster drinks and she likes the Red Bull. So I have no idea what they talk about, but that just seems like a winner.
Doesn't sound like a good. We gotta get John Tron on. You think we could? He probably would never.
Wait, no, I do know his not know, but I met his director, and I think I may be able to pull it off. Let's see what happens. But anyway, then I know he had a bad experience with Destiny that one time.
Yeah, but, we have to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, but anyway, then
we get Destiny on. That'd be terrible. We get Destiny on. That'd be.
Oh, we'll see what happens. I mean,
I'd like to have Destiny on so I can call him a stupid ass bitch.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. Yeah.
So then we have.
We always for like 4 hours straight.
We always try to be respectful. We always try to be respectful to the people who come on the stream because they take their time to come in. But anyway, we're gonna have Wilford Riley.
You are respect. You
call him a soy jack for 4 hours.
You guys are respectful. I just call him fucking manlet the whole time.
We are gonna have Wilford Riley coming in Thursday, August 5th, who wrote the book Hate Crime Hoax: How the Left is Selling a Fake Race War, and he also participated in a debate against Jared Taylor. So he's coming in Thursday, August 5th. Then we're going to have Uncle Duma. Uncle Doomer coming in Thursday, August 12th.
Sonic Race War now. Sonic Race.
Patriot.
Gotta go fast into the...
Patriot J, Tuesday, August 17th.
Oh, nice.
Then we're going to have the big one here, Jason Riza Giorgiani, Thursday, August 19th. And then we're going to have Hotep Jesus coming in Tuesday, August 20th. For real.
Oh, yeah.
Tuesday, August 24th.
Please have me on that. Please
sure.
Talking
about buck breaking.
Sure. Yeah. You're coming. You're coming.
He blocked me so long ago because I kept calling him a griff.
Well, we're
Oh,
also
no.
gonna have
Oh, good.
we're also gonna have Hotep Sophia on there as well. So
Oh,
and
beautiful.
we're,
It's been too long since I've seen
it has indeed.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then-
Cyber Ninjas. No, I'd never have Vouch on. First of all, Vouch should probably never come. Second of all, I just don't want that. Our shit would get rocked. I think if we, if we were in.
it would be an ungodly. It's like posting your girlfriend's face on feed. You know what I
It
mean?
would
Yeah.
get
Not a-
it would get rocked.
It's not good.
It would get rocked like how the women in Iran get rocked. You know,
Oh God.
that kind of
No,
that
what I
was
mean is his
adultery.
audience would like basically try to take down our channel.
You'd get griped. But in
We
a
get
bad way.
griped so hard,
He would get griper like he's
Hmm.
Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
All right, next. Next you guys are gonna have to see. Listen, if anybody here knows Adam Krigler, send him a message. Get him in touch with BTR. I want Adam
Who's
Krigler on this
that?
show. He was the guy who was on Tim Pool's show. Now he has his own show. Interesting dude. And anyway, guys, if you know who I'm talking about, reach out to him. See if you can get him on BTR. And we're gonna have
His
Count
terrible
Dankula.
name, Physionic. Oh, you're having Dankula.
Yeah,
on,
Thursday,
dude.
September 2. That
Oh
should be very-
yeah, I forgot
Dude,
about
right
that.
Yeah.
before
Yes.
my birthday. Wow.
Oh
fuck.
shit!
Nice.
You want to come on that one as well?
I would. That would be nice.
Excellent.
I'd like to tell.
Yes.
Tell him that I'm a fan. He's great.
So there we go. And from there on, we want to get more people. I'm trying to get Chad Haig on. Here, Gio, the only reason why we're not doing Chad earlier just has to do with monsoon season. Because the
Oh,
connection's
that's why
not
we had
gonna
to
be,
push it back.
Yeah, the connection's not going to be reliable.
Because I got to
Hope-
reach out to Painted Worlds for that one. He'd love to come on.
Well, so hopefully Tuesday, September 21. That's the date that I set for Chad for 9:30 p.m. If he accepts it, good. If not, we can push it back a little bit further. But anyway, guys, a lot of interesting things. And before we go, again, the plugs, the Prudentialist. Anything new that you want to share with the world?
Yes, tomorrow at noon Central, I'm going to have Marrowbane, Mr. Patriarch, and Conscious Caracol, so 3 South African residents that are going to just explain
Oh,
what the hell
nice.
is going on and what the future of South Africa looks like. So tune in tomorrow,
Nice.
noon Central.
Sounds
Oh,
Oh,
brilliant.
by the way, on my YouTube channel, I just released my first dramatic reading of the Book of Revelations.
Yes, Gio, I can't
chapter
wait
1
to listen to that, man.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I just
Here we go.
released it. So yeah, the South Prudentialist. You also did a recent 2 streams about Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's the big part of my channel is I do geopolitical and international relations analysis.
Yeah. Do
I
you
try
talk
to-
about just the history of Afghanistan or just the American involvement?
Oh no, we talked about like last Sunday we talked about Chinese interests, the Eurasian Economic Union, the CTSO, Iran, Turkey, the migrant crisis that's incoming, and of course the neighboring nations like Tajikistan, the border crisis. I try my best to be as holistic and encompassing as possible.
I remember Alex Jones. This was in like 2011. Said the reason they invaded Afghanistan with Iraq is because they wanted to deny the Chi-Coms the pipeline, so they used the Northern Alliance to basically attack Chinese facilities.
Well, even Niccolo from Fisted by Foucault, if you follow him on Substack, he talked about that as well. Like, it prevents essentially Afghanistan prevents the Chinese from them getting access to Iran, which would give them
Yeah.
access to the Strait of Hormuz, or even access to Turkey, depending on how the Turkish relationship with the West goes.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
going
there's
terrible, by the way. But
well, I mean, Erdogan is just playing both sides because he's still
Yeah.
technically a part of NATO in the West, but he's got a $4.2 million Trump card of migrants and he's been buying
Yeah.
Russian military equipment.
Hmm.
So there's a lot at play there. And I've talked about the Turkish EU relationship in a previous stream, but every Sunday I do a show on geopolitics and international relations theory. I think that when we do an analysis of politics or the culture war, whatever you want to call it, we focus way too much on the domestic and not enough on the fact that there's the rest of the world out there. And it's important for
Mhm.
anyone, regardless if you live in the West, whether you live anywhere in the world, that there's a much bigger story at play and a lot of actors behind the scenes that we should be aware of.
would you ever do a Canada one?
I would love to do a Canada one. Gio, you want to come on and tell me about how fucked Canada is?
Yeah, but we would need another. We would have to get like Argent or someone else.
I'd
on.
actually
Oh.
like to come on to that just to talk about how it was a really nice place to grow up, but
Yeah.
that is a
And it got
really
fucked.
that's the worst part is that it's almost like a
That's how I feel about my own home country.
it's like a hidden darkness, right? Because like it's so nice and it was so idyllic in so many
Mhm.
ways, but then it reveals itself to be something that's built
Mm.
upon something that is going to destroy all
Yeah.
of us. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Oh,
But no,
and,
Remus and Gio, you're more than
Mhm.
invited. Just DM me on Twitter. We can schedule
Absolutely,
something.
brother. Absolutely.
Sure.
And one more thing, by the way. So the United States supported the Mujahideen during the 80s, and ALF came out in 1986. imagine a series called Afghanistan, where Alf was
goes
just...
to Afghanistan.
Well, no,
Alf
Afghanistan
becomes a
would be...
mujahideen.
Well, no, Afghanistan is an alternate universe Afghanistan, which is full of Alf's people. So that's like where he came
Oh,
from.
wow.
He came from
They're the
Afghanistan.
Mujahideen?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're-
I would love
Oh,
that.
that
The
would be
aliens
sick.
are Mujahideen.
Yeah,
so
that
it would be
sick.
like a similar, like a Star Wars thing, you know, with the Ewoks destroying the Empire.
God.
Soviet
you know?
Union.
Yeah, I would love to watch Alf's yelling "Inshallah, Allahu Akbar," you know, get the whole fucking ball game.
Just a bunch of
all the Russian
just a
planes
bunch
are
of
coming.
just a bunch of Alfs yelling Allahu Akbar as they eat a bunch of Russian cats.
As they bomb a fucking Russians, of course, out of the
Smoking
sky.
the Russians. Yeah.
All right, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are ending the stream for today. Thank you so much for watching. A big
Holy
thanks
fuck,
to...
what do we do, 5 hours?
Inshallah, Afghanistan will rise.
Chill out! And then it's like fucking...
I wonder how Israel would react to this
very
Afghanistan.
briefly.
Just like the Russian MiG just exploding out of the sky. It's got a laser.
Very briefly, just before we end, did you guys see that video out of South Africa of all of the Muslim Pakistani guys like creating a firing line? That is some of the most bizarre.
They
like
just
it's so
fucking mow 'em down.
surreal.
No, I
With
gotta
Russian
take a
made
look at that.
AKs.
No, it's a bunch of Pakistani dudes with their cars set up. There's a horde of people coming.
Yeah.
And this guy's just like, behind you is 30 years of your blood, sweat, and tears. He's just fucking hyping these dudes up.
Or
so
the
hard.
Indian
Yeah, it's the
community where they're
Indians.
beating
Bro,
them to
yeah,
death.
I was
yeah.
ready to fight. I
Oh,
was ready to fight.
what was the
watching that
video of the South Africans where they had all the looters like naked on all fours walking around
Oh,
like
that was
dogs?
good
Yeah.
stuff too. Yeah, that had good stuff.
I
Oh
love
my
how-
god.
Or the
my-
row your boat. That was a good. Thing.
You know what my old man loves? He finds this like, I don't know why he finds this so hilarious.
You know what your old man loves? He loves Israel, so we better do a stream with him versus you on Patreon.
Fuck.
He's gonna give us
Can't believe
$100.
he did that to me.
He's gonna give us
Anyway,
$100.
Patreon
$100. What do you need $80 for?
Oh God! Don't you start, Prudentialist. Don't you
He
start.
loves how every third world police force, especially in India, they have the canes. So he's like, he
Yeah,
goes,
they just beat the fuck out of you.
so he used to like look up videos on live leaks, like India canes, and like the police would just like beat looters in the street, or like when they had the Wu flu, the restrictions, they just like fucking. He does the fucking sound too. It's like, it's like,
Yeah, that's a very distinct
No,
sound
Bobby
that
G.
the cane makes. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know why
Amazing.
he finds it amusing for some reason.
Well,
they just get
in
beat
general,
with canes.
Gio, in general, we gotta have your old man on the stream for other streams. Just like
Oh,
set up a
God,
separate.
no.
Do you have another computer in the house?
Yeah, my dad is cringe. I know he's a boomer. What do
do, you have
you
another,
want?
do you have another computer in the house?
Yes, I could give him my mic. My other
Yes,
mic.
there we go. Well, give him another mic so that both of you guys are on at the same time. But anyway, guys, this is the end of the stream. Good night, everybody.
God bless.
Take care.
Inshallah.
Bye.
Inshallah. Allahu Akbar.
Inshallah.